On this episode, we watched...
Do not. No.
We watched...
No.
We watched a movie called...
No, I can't even bear it.
Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing but trouble.
Nothing but trouble.
My tummy hurts.
I've never felt more repulsed by a film.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan
Dan.
McCoy.
When do you start talking?
I start talking now.
Oh,
Okay, so
quite a podcast you're running over here.
Tight ship. Stuart, what's your name?
my name is Stuart Wellingtown.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
I'm Joan Hodgman.
I don't think that's correct. That seems wrong.
That's right, folks. Famous comedian Joan Hodgman is here today.
Hodgman. It's pronounced. Excuse me, unsolicited caller. It's pronounced Hodgman.
We have,
John Hodgman is my name.
and special guest John Hodgman is here for two big reasons.
Two big reasons. Yeah, it's our 200th episode.
200th.
And already you got the gist of the podcast. Dan's stupid mouth says something wrong, and we jump on him about
We've
it.
done 200 of these? I can't
say
believe
that?
it.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to make it to 300, but I remember back when our first 100th episode happened.
And it is also Max Fun Drive. The time of year when we come with hat in hand to ask you for a little scratch to keep this silly thing going.
Because we're so itchy.
Please.
Having just watched that film, I'd prefer to avoid all humor involving skin disorders, if you don't mind.
So yeah, can you tell me about the Max Fun Drive, Dan?
Yeah, sure. If it's a little thing that just funds a whole network, Stuart.
Okay.
Get mad at Stuart about it. And that's our network, right?
Yeah, Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
And that's John's network.
It is. Yes, I also have a podcast called the Judge John Hodgman Podcast.
This is not the place to plug that.
It's inappropriate, sir.
What's that?
Nothing. So
The Judge John Hodgman Podcast may not be mentioned on the Flophouse. Seems like I give you guys a lot of love on my podcast.
Yeah. Let's direct
true.
some traffic over there. Yeah, let's just.
When I say that your podcast is my mortal enemy.
Why don't we just hit the switch that creates a detour so people stop listening to this podcast and go to this evil podcast out in the woods?
No, the point. Look, we are all brothers and sisters in the shade of maximum fun, and so it is important once a year that we turn to you, the listener, and say, "It costs money to do what we do." And we hope that you would consider, if you enjoy this podcast, and I don't know why you would, but many of you do, to go to MaximumFun.org/donate and toss a little some coins our way.
it could be as low as $5 a month in being a pledge person donor. It could be as high as $1 million a month.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
If you're a crazy billionaire, I'm not even going to say eccentric billionaire. I'm going to say schizophrenic billionaire. Why not spend $1 million a month on us?
And in addition to getting access to bonus episodes like other things we've done and all the other bonus episodes for all the other shows on the network.
Hundreds of hours of entertainment from all the shows. on the
Yeah,
network.
if you give $5 a month, you will get all of the bonus
That's
content.
$60 a year.
That's
you
six-
spend more money on, I don't know, Matchbox cars.
Literal
I tell you what.
garbage.
I tell you what.
You spend more money on just
I
junk that you then throw away.
I tell you what, this month, don't buy Barely Legal. Never buy it again. Instead, put that money towards Max Fun.
Yeah, the internet exists. Come on.
Why, yeah, just type Barely Legal into your search engine. Okay, do it right now. Go to google.com. Now type in, but spell it B-A-R.
Strange.
You want bear sex.
Strangely, also a Maximum Fun podcast.
Dan is sick, as you can tell.
Yeah.
He needs medicine. And the only way we can get the money for that medicine is if you donate at
Yes.
MaximumFun.org/donate.
If we don't get Dan penicillin within the hour, he will almost certainly expire.
And if you do get me penicillin with the hour, I will also probably expire because I'm allergic to penicillin.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, please, if you find me on the street and think what this man needs is a little penicillin to fix him right up.
Don't blow it in
Do
his
not
face.
do that.
That's my vigilante do-gooderism. I wander the subways in the middle of the night, and if I see a passed out vagrant, I rub some penicillin under their nose.
Take a moldy
rub
piece
all
of
over
bread and rub it on their
Yeah,
face.
exactly. Wow, so you can't have penicillin.
Yeah,
Why,
well,
you're
I mean,
even more of a sickly waif than I realized.
this is a childhood allergy. I don't know what's going to happen to me in adulthood. Like, maybe
right.
I'll get
So let's try
superpowers.
it.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
might
know.
you might emerge from your chrysalis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you are no longer allergic to penicillin.
Yeah, the doctors told your mom, never let him have penicillin. Tell him he's allergic.
Just one.
Or else he'll
more.
turn into a super creature.
Yeah. They're Harrison Bergeroning you.
Yeah, exactly. They're holding you. Western medicine is just holding you back, dude.
So for $5, you get the bonus episodes. What do you get if you donate more than $5?
Nothing. What? Not nothing?
No, quite a bit more than nothing.
This is quite an
know what?
incredible deal.
We'll get into the specific gifts later on, but I will say that the $10 a month level or the $10 a month level.
As people would say, yeah.
$10, yeah.
As
you-
English, I mean, if you want to send a $10 over to us, you
a
probably melt it down for 40 cents.
very sharp bandana of your choice.
Not 8 out of 10. Like sharp, like it looks cool. Like,
sharp.
like it'll cut
There's
you.
I think 22 designs, one for all the shows on the network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all beautiful.
They're
designs.
beautiful. They're beautiful bandanas. Bandani.
Bandani.
Bandani. Yep.
That's
That's
me,
you.
Band Danny.
That was when you were the mascot for Band-Aid and brand Band-Aids. Oh, I got me a cut.
That was
Good thing Bandani's here.
I am stuck on Band-Aid brand. Because Band-Aid. Do you remember when they added that in?
Yeah, just
The jingle was always, I'm stuck on Band-Aids because Band-Aid's stuck on me. And then they had to added brand.
because people thought it was the generic kind.
Yeah, because attorneys hate jingles.
I like that much more than the idea that it was a Band Danny movement. There were people out there who were just trying to get rid of me.
Bandani.
Well, if you killed fewer people, there wouldn't be that call.
Look, if I kill fewer people, then how would I have any fun?
He makes a good point.
But what we normally do is not come to you with hat in hand. What we normally do is
Take your hat off your head and throw it on the ground.
yeah, we steal it PG Woodhouse style as a.
Did he steal hats from people?
Well, his character.
Because I know him more as an author, but I know he was a famous hat thief. Put out to the APB, Scotland Yard.
In his
All right.
attic, he had thousands of bowlers.
That man is on his prime computer. There was another robbery at the Hat Museum.
Oh, we're killing Danny. Stop, you guys.
right.
Don't
It's
make
all right.
him
Well,
laugh. A lung's going to come out.
We got out. Don't worry, Batman. We got out the extra cops for the Pharaoh's hat exhibit at the Gotham Museum. DJ Woodhouse isn't going to stop and get us this time.
Pharaoh's addicts.
It's a variety of accents there from your Scotland Yard.
Yeah, I don't know where he was from. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of today trying to figure out what my Jane Campion accent would sound like, and it was too Australian every time.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it New Zealand.
Impossible.
Why are you working on a Jane Campion?
That is a good question I can't quite answer because there is no real answer to it.
Were you actually working on it, or were you
I was,
just,
but
or
it-
you just
just for fun.
teasing old Hodgman?
Oh, you
No,
weren't
no,
doing it
for real.
for professional reasons?
Look, I
Elliot has no professional reasons at the moment.
I said,
So
what's a job? I mean, I'm looking
Jane
for.
Campion came to you as a director and said, "I want to cast you in my movie, but you have to have a Jane Campion accent."
I want you to cast.
I want you. I
as
want.
me.
Yeah, I want you to star in my biopic that I'm making of
It's
myself.
called G.I. Jane.
Yeah.
It's about my struggles with my intestinal problems.
Good tie-in with the movie we watched today.
To me,
It started. Yeah.
more. That's
Now,
right.
Dan, what movie did we
Demure
watch?
more. We watched a movie called Nothing But Trouble.
Now, was this
and
a
boy,
movie?
was it?
It warned us. It warned us. I had never seen this movie, and it was definitely ripe to be seen by me in the year of its release, 1991.
You were the
because it probably
target.
came out on video in 1992 or late 1991, and I was working in a video store in New Haven, Connecticut at the time. I remember when it came in. I had seen previews for it on other movies, and I was like, I do not need to watch this movie.
So this video store
you know,
in the
this
90s,
is-
you
Yes.
your uniform was probably like a pair of overalls with one of the straps off, and like
I wore my jeans backwards.
okay, that's a bugs
Chris
and tags.
video.
And every morning I would come in and I would bring in the the returns out of the return box, and then I would just warm it up, Chris. But I mean,
Roundabout way to that show, guys.
this was a time when you absolutely like. I was in my early 20s. Okay. I worked at a video store, and I worked all day, and no one would ever come in, and all you would do is like I believed I was immortal, and I could waste time watching terrible movies.
And yet you never got around to.
But this was one where I was like, not this one.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think
there's trouble in the title. I'm not going to watch it.
I don't want to. I don't
Unless
want to.
This trouble is big and happening in a China that's smaller than the normal size. I am not interested.
I have to say that it was a great joy of my life to inflict this movie on Mr. John Hodgman and look over at him at certain points when I knew what was about to happen.
Did it show on my face?
The bafflement and disgust on your face.
Let me set the stage for you, for everybody. So Dan, in his apartment, he has a couch and a rocking chair. And Mr. Hodgman chose the rocking chair. And the look on his face during certain scenes, it was like we had come upon like a disapproving man sitting on his porch, just watching like the young people doing who knows
the
what.
The images on the screen literally pushed him back in the rocking chair.
But the nicest part about it was there was a TV tray in front of me with a single piece of fried chicken and a martini. And I'm like, well, life is perfect right now. And I enjoyed sitting down with my friends, Elliot, Dan, and what's his name?
Non-creative.
I had the pleasure.
We call him service industry.
He's called below the line.
I had the pleasure of meeting Stuart in a bar, his natural habitat, late on Monday evening here in Brooklyn, New York, and I've enjoyed knowing you. I'm glad this is not the first time that we have met, and I doubt it will be the last. So there.
Right.
But now
I mean, bars, we all frequent them, right, Dan?
We all love them. That's where the alcohol lives.
Where it lives. It's just like Food Fight at night. The lights go out and the alcohol comes to life and has adventures.
And has fights, has brawls.
Night at the Alcohol Museum.
So you did not have the opportunity to watch this movie.
Ever.
He had the opportunity. He just never took it.
So
yeah,
I know that speaking, I think Dan
Much like J.R. Havlin, he had the option to watch this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's an in-joke about someone that Dan and I know telling a story that was in a meeting at the Daily Show, so no one will know that.
We just thought it was delightful that he described it once as he had the option to watch Prometheus.
Yeah.
As if anyone at any time does not have the option to watch whatever movie.
Oh, he got the invitation?
Yeah.
He found an unmarked envelope slid under his door. Well,
right.
This is very mysterious. What, an invitation to go into deepest space with Ridley Scott?
Show up at this mansion and say Fidelio, and then you'll see Prometheus.
Recommended that I be stoned out of my mind? Well, I think I have time. I'm not sure.
But this movie is one that...
Time is the fourth dimension, Elliot.
Thank
and
you.
The movie is shot in 3 dimensions, so if you had the time to watch Prometheus, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Warm it up, Chris.
This is a movie that I saw... this is the first time of my seeing it in probably about 20, 25 years. Or that could be 25 years. In about 20 years. But when I was... It just hasn't been around that long. But it was on HBO all the time.
Yeah.
And being a child, I had nothing but time. And
nothing but time.
You certainly felt that you...
I thought I would... Not only that I would live forever and could have unlimited time, but also that it was my job apparently to watch whatever television decided to show me, regardless of whether I even liked it.
They made it. I have an obligation to complete the circle.
If I think this is bad, I must be wrong because adults made this.
It was supposedly a comedy thing too, like the fact that, I mean, these are not. I don't know. I mean, like Chevy Chase's stock has fallen greatly since the making of movies such as Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah.
But at the time, you see a movie with Chevy Chase and John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, and you're a comedy person growing up. You think
it's got the bona
there
fides.
has to be something about this movie that I'm missing.
And if this is
It had a pedigree.
Yeah, and if this is a movie other people don't like, maybe it's because it's too original and like too good in some ways. The way that there are plenty of movies that general audiences they couldn't handle them, but you watch them and you're like, this is really good. I can see why this was too much for regular people.
Like Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah, exactly. Something
It's
like
just a weird movie.
it's just a weird movie. But
You
like,
don't know what you don't know how it's operating or what its logic is, but you're enchanted by it.
yeah, and
in
there's
a way.
a pleasure to Nicolas Cage's performance, but you're like,
Yeah.
I can see how other people not understanding that
And-
would be
and
like, this is bad.
Can't handle 200% performance.
Right.
You can't handle a man yelling every letter in the alphabet at his therapist.
But here, this is a very similar film because it features a very strong performance from
Committed.
Dan Aykroyd, very committed performance.
Yeah.
A very weird aesthetic, a very can't quite put your finger on what it thinks it's doing element to it.
Yeah.
And yet you find it uncharming completely. In fact, it is utterly disgusting and repulsive.
It really, even as a child, I was like, I'm going to make a value judgment here. There are two movies that when I was a kid, I was like, I think this is not a movie I like. And I didn't even know that was possible. And they both have Chevy Chase in them.
What's the other
There's
one?
this and Christmas Vacation.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I remember seeing that in the theaters and like a third of the way through being like, I'm not enjoying this, but I'm in a movie theater watching a movie. Like, is that a thing that like I thought there was something wrong with me for a moment?
So wait,
Right.
I
that
not
was
enjoying a
that
movie.
was the
That
was
was
one of
the
the
moment you
moments when you
discovered.
realized that movies can be bad.
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is like your.
See, it was
origin
much
story.
later for me. It was Toys starring Robin Williams. Where I'm like, this is the worst thing.
Ironically, that's a movie where when I eventually saw it, I was like, "This is not a good movie, but there's interesting things going on here." But it was Christmas Vacation was the one where I went with my family, and they were like, I was like, my parents shrugged it off. They were like, "That wasn't so good," and we left. And I was like, "How can you be so cavalier?"
What's
about
wrong
this?
with you? Didn't you just see what happened? A movie wasn't good.
This is against the laws of reality.
Call the local news.
Go tell it to the Marines.
You're next. You're next to see a movie that isn't good.
Just running through the parking lot screaming at people.
Should we say? Do you say what the movie is about?
No, we do.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do that.
Okay.
We're just
Kinda?
taking a long time
I mean, if
getting
anything,
around to it.
we're way on more on point than usual. Usually, by this point, we're talking about some dumb like Werner Herzog impression that one of us is doing. or,
Right.
like Stewart's are pretty good.
Hello, my name is Werner Herzog. I'm a good director of movies.
Yeah.
Is that your Jane Campion?
I think it's pretty close, right?
Pretty close to the real one. Yeah.
I mean,
Ich bin ein Director of a Filmin. Oh.
Nothing But Trouble is a hard movie to get across, though, because I've tried to explain it to people by saying, like, it is an attempt to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a comedy. But if you say that, like, if I heard that, I would think,
It's like,
that's
that's
awesome. I want to see that
What's-
movie.
Well, but it immediately struck me that the way this movie was made was Dan Aykroyd wandered onto the set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and said, "Can I do something with this?" Because it's the exact same premise and the exact same over-the-top, over-set decorated, weird, tchotchke-laden haunted house, contraption house deal as the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre is
sort of comedic.
terrifying, but it's a comedy as well.
Yeah.
You know, like...
It strikes me as him seeing like Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
Yeah.
and being like, I could make a movie like that.
Well, right.
but
I mean-
not understanding what went into that movie.
This was his attempt to make a Tim Burton, like a gothic Tim Burton movie, but he doesn't.
But with unpleasant man babies.
Unpleasant and a roller coaster that strips people's flesh from their bones and then spits them out. And
The
there's-
movie begins with early '90s blues or jazz.
it's it's a Ray Charles song. I
Now-
happen
Carol
to
song
look it up.
over the Manhattan Nightline.
Now, this is a comedy from 1991, and as was the law passed by Congress, all comedies made between 1984 and 1992 had to open with a helicopter shot of the New York skyline and some kind of like bluesy jazz song sung by an African American singer.
Right.
That was just.
I remember
the law.
when they passed that law. I was glued to C-SPAN that afternoon.
Wait,
It was very
Will
dramatic
they or won't they?
when Reagan signed it into law.
Oh my God, tears! I still.
Yeah, you interrupted the normal video watching at
Which,
the
as
movie
you said-
rental store to watch this historic law pass.
was an attempt to kick something off with Soul, like when it was the widest movie in the world.
Well,
like,
what,
typically.
with most movies or just
Yeah,
this one?
with most
With
movies.
most movies, it was a way to like make a
I mean,
movie.
this movie has
seem-
Digital Underground in it, so it's not,
but Dan Aykroyd also has a
It
long.
is technically not the whitest movie in the world on a
They're
technicality.
There's one scene with black people in it. I guess two because there's some black state troopers at the end. But Dan Aykroyd also has a history of there's the good things he does, and then there's the more like Blues Brothers-y things he does, where he wants to be cool. Where like, and he's like, you know what? I like music. I know on the outside I'm white, but inside, who knows what I am? You know
A
what?
Bruno type character.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, if only he had the faith that Bruce Willis has in putting that character on a CD and then never doing it ever again. Just performing it at Planet Hollywoods.
There are two things that I know about Dan Aykroyd, and one is that I do believe he is genuinely interested in rhythm and blues music.
No, he is.
And I believe that he genuinely believes that there are UFOs and ghosts. And but beyond that, Dan Aykroyd is unknowable. There is, like, I felt like we really saw into this movie was written by Dan Aykroyd with his brother. It was directed by Dan Aykroyd. It was
his sister.
A total Dan Aykroyd joint. He recruited a cast of old friends, John Candy and Chevy Chase, and Brian Doyle Murray and whatever, to be in it with him. The look on their faces throughout the movie is, I guess I have to do this. and I feel like we are peering into the addled brain of Dan Aykroyd. I don't know what is going on inside. I have not felt this way about really not knowing how another human being thinks since the time I saw Dan Aykroyd do that ad for Crystal Head vodka, where I was truly like, I don't know what reality you are inhabiting. I don't know whether you're being serious or joking, and if you're being serious, I don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah, is this performance art, or do actual humans want to spend roughly 90 minutes in this world?
Yeah.
There's a commercial he did. He had a wine also that he did commercial for that did not come in a crystal skull.
Well, then
bottle.
it's undrinkable.
But it was like, I remember seeing the ad, and he like gives a smile at the end that I think is supposed to be like, it's good stuff. I enjoy it too. But the look on his face is like, there's poison in this. Like, you don't know it, but when you drink this, you're gonna die. Like, this is our little secret, and it's gonna die with you. So, but so we should talk about what the movie happens. So we start off.
Can we? I actually want you to try to tell me what the plot of the movie is.
Okay, the only part I'm really not clear on, I'll get to, which is, so it's New York City. Chevy Chase is a very rich, like, hot stock tips guy. He has a financial newsletter that he gives out, and he's throwing.
It just looks like a fucking pamphlet that he hands people. I don't know how he's making money off of this thing.
Oh no, that's real money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you kidding me? Financial newsletters?
Like a newsletter?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You spend a lot of money to subscribe to it because it's good tips.
Good tips.
One of the headlines
and he
says
saves
like
money by not having all the like artwork and color.
Right.
It looks like it was run off in the mimeograph in the school office. Yeah, exactly.
Is that the
Sharp financial brain.
Mailman holding up a letter.
What's the headline that we see on that? It's like buy cocoa.
Stay in cocoa. There are actually a few legit funny lines in this movie, and that was one of them for me. I didn't know what was going on there.
But he runs into a new tenant at his building,
played by
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore,
who is she was born half Moore, but she changed it to be more sophisticated. Well, a Moore had mated with a human woman, so she was born as a Demi Moore.
Yep.
Of course, Hestia sent those snakes to kill her in her crib, but she strangled them with her prodigious strength.
All right, I'm leaving now.
Okay, sorry. But so she is a lawyer who's involved with some guy who is both her boyfriend and also a client, and he's doing some kind of landfill deal. This is something I couldn't wrap my mind around.
A character we never see.
We never see.
A real Rosalind.
All you need to know is that she convinces Chevy Chase, I need to go to Atlantic City tomorrow. Can you drive me in your fancy car? I don't know why she asks him in particular. But
it's a cherry Beamer.
And he says yes because he wants to put his penis inside of her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the subtext that I missed.
Yeah, and when Demi Moore's at a party with him, she's wearing a low-cut black cocktail dress. It's framed so that you don't see her cleavage. And I was like, Dan Aykroyd, what kind of director are you? Not remembering that throughout the rest of the movie, she's constantly bending over or falling down face first with her boobs hanging out of her dress. Yeah. So you corrected me, Dan Aykroyd. That's right.
Yeah, I would like to come back.
I was looking for.
I don't want to interrupt the synopsis of the film, but I would like to come back to the topic of Demi Moore.
Here.
Why did you make it? Why?
She was
because I understand why Chevy Chase made it. I understand why John Candy made it.
I mean, it's possible she was dating Dan Aykroyd at the time. Probably not. But she was also
no. How dare you? How dare you suggest that Dan Aykroyd is unfaithful to Donna Dixon,
Sorry, I apologize. Yeah.
my girlfriend?
So she's unfaithful to him with you.
She doesn't know that she's my girlfriend.
Okay.
But that is a marriage that seems that is a Canadian weirdo marriage that seems truly solid.
They've been together for a long time.
For a long time. Yeah, I always loved.
He has certainly given her reasons to consider.
This movie right there. If all you have to you go to divorce court and the judge says, "What's the reason?" and she plays the movie and the judge is like, "I want to divorce you now."
So these two rich people,
these
two wealthy New York loathsome yuppies.
Yeah, they're the heroes of the film.
They're the heroes, and they're and unironically portrayed as the heroes.
Yeah,
like they are not villains in any way.
We're supposed to really like them. We don't want to see them get a comeuppance.
Chevy Chase is supposed to be is supposed to be able to pull that off, though. That he's supposed to be able to pull off the rich 80s jerk.
People have believed that Chevy Chase was capable of pulling off a lot of things for a long time.
I mean that's like his role in Caddyshack is basically that, right?
But he says funny things in that. In this, there's like a dearth of funny things.
All right, wait. So
he reads a lot of signs in the movie.
Two wealthy creeps get into a Beamer to drive to Atlantic City for reasons unknown. Joined for reasons unknown by Taylor Negron and an actress I couldn't recognize.
I don't know. They're both Brazilians.
As two Brazilian millionaires or Brazilianaires, as Chevy Chase calls them in what is kind of a joke.
That was it was a generational defining joke.
Everyone remembers where they were when they heard the term Brazilianaires.
It was like, that's right up there with "I'll have what she's having." It's like, not Brazilianaires, because that's a thing we all know about.
And they decide, we're going to go on the drive too for no reason. They leave New York City.
Right.
They enter New Jersey, and as a New Jersey native myself, having spent the first 17 years of my life there, it was not a portrait of New Jersey I really recognized. Apparently, Dan Aykroyd thinks that in the space between New York City and Atlantic City, which is a very easy drive, I've done it. I've taken the bus that way.
Don't say that. You're trying to portray yourself as a successful podcaster.
No, just taking the bus.
I've taken the
you
bus.
Have that
to
stop
Atlantic
in
City.
Chesapeake where you kind of sit around waiting, and you're like,
I thought it was
time
pronounced
is money.
Cheesequake.
I thought so too, and I was corrected.
By who?
They said there's going to be a stop in Cheesequake. People are going to get on there, and I was imagining tourist T-shirts that say "I survived the Cheesequake," and the word Cheesequake is the font is like letters made out of cheese that are shaking around like in an earthquake.
This is a reference to a stop on the Jersey Turnpike that is clearly labeled Cheesequake. It is spelled Cheesequake.
It's spelled Cheesequake like there's an
something you can
earthquake
get at
made
the
out
Guy
of cheese.
Fieri
But you're telling me that it's actually pronounced Chesapeake?
That's what I was told. Yeah.
That was a good joke, Dan.
After spending,
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, we have Dan. What was the joke? I didn't hear it.
I don't know.
Something you can get at the Guy Fieri restaurant.
Yeah, the All-American Grill. If it's one of your dessert options.
Yeah.
You get the red, white, and blue Cheesequake. Yeah, it's a real mountain of American cheese. Mm-hmm. Inside, molten Velveeta cheese.
Yes. And it's profoundly unstable.
You have to eat it before it falls apart.
There's one scientist saying, you guys have to evacuate this cheese mountain. I'm like, shut up, egghead.
Measuring 7.9 on the Lichter scale.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Yeah, please leave.
I just forgot your name again.
I'm gonna exercise my veto power over that joke. Rarely used. Okay, so in between New York City and Atlantic City,
If you just take a short detour because your Brazilian friends want to see the countryside.
you will find yourself in a Mad Max style coal destroyed industrial zone.
Right,
There's
a
lot of
wasteland.
There are wasteland industrial areas in New Jersey, but rarely are they coal mines, and very rarely are they the personal fiefdoms of inbred hillbilly families.
Unless it's a horror movie.
Unless it's a horror movie. But again, not that many horror movies are set in New Jersey. Maybe in the Pine Barrens, but they're not getting as far.
They weren't as far south as the Pine Barrens. They were not in Jersey Devil territory there.
No, exactly.
There's no Mothman. Wait, Mothman's New Jersey.
That is West Virginia.
my
Yeah,
mistake.
I mean, what you would find between New York.
This movie was supposed to be set in West Virginia.
Okay,
I mean,
would make
that it
sense.
would make more sense if it were in West Virginia or anywhere in the true Appalachians where there is actual coal mining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the premise is that if you take a little bit of a detour off of the Jersey Turnpike in this coastal part of New Jersey, you will suddenly be in the foothills of gigantic San Bernardino style mountains, because that's what they were in the actual shooting, and it's an entirely strip mined central Pennsylvania area coal fire hellscape.
Yeah.
where many of the locals boast Chicagoan accents.
Yeah, right.
Well,
And if you miss a stop
They
sign,
went to the second city, yeah.
if you miss a stop sign, John Candy will very politely arrest you, recommend that you be fined, but the crazy old judge, played by Dan Aykroyd, will sentence you to staying overnight in a weird puzzle house
no,
full of junk,
mousetrap house.
tchotchkes, and phallic
I
symbols.
feel like we're skipping a couple important things. One of which is the town they drive through is one of these towns that only exists for creepy old people or creepy looking people to sit on abandoned couches and watch city folk drive through.
Right.
And just scowl at them. They go through a stop sign and John Candy turns on his sirens and the Brazilians are like, hey, we should run off and just leave them behind. Just speed it up. And Chevy's
Well,
just
because it was already set up. They were in this sweet Beamer.
yeah.
And
Cherry.
Demi Moore basically has an orgasm about Chevy Chase's car. And so it's been set up like, this is an incredible car that these rich creeps have.
Yeah, the camera just like lingers all over that newfangled GPS unit he's got.
Yeah.
Oh, I could not believe there was a GPS in that car. Like, if I had seen that in the movie theater, I'd be like, what an age we live in.
Where rich people can always know where they are.
You would leave the movie theater, go to the payphone, and call your mom to explain that you're living in the future.
You just walk out dazed, looking up at the stars.
Right.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen tomorrow, but it's today. Just stopping bystanders. What year is it? What century is it? You understand? A car had a computer in it.
And the GPS, there was a lot of speculation in the room that this was somehow product placement from the GPS company, whatever it is. But like all of the product placement that might have been, all of the products that exist in this film end up being put in very bad light.
I have to assume these are the products that did not meet the asking price for not being included in the film.
Right, exactly.
Dan Aykroyd-
It was an extortion situation.
Here's the deal.
It's a real nice product you got here. It'd be a shame if it showed up and nothing was trouble.
Coca-Cola, quality soft drink. Pay me $1 million or I'm putting it in my movie. No.
Your GPS company, if you don't give me $1 million, I'm going to feature you prominently in the movie, and then we will lose service in the middle of New Jersey, and then as a result, the people will be murdered.
As you can clearly see in this scene, Dan Aykroyd's character has a tiny little train drive around delivering Pizza Hut pizzas to the horrified guests.
No, you take my money, make it giant hot dogs. I'm glad we could do business, Mr. Hutt.
Of course, Stewart is referring to the condiment train in one of the most repulsive.
Come on, ride the condiment train.
In the scene
and ride it.
while they're eating dinner, Chevy Chase hallucinates that Dan Aykroyd's phallic nose is actually, I guess, just a penis sticking
a
out of his-
penis.
But we haven't even gotten there, so I guess I'll speed up to that point. They
in
go
a
on,
movie that's basically a walking hallucination.
They go on a chase. John Candy reaches them because he has afterburners on his car and stops them with some. He has some push button tricks on his dashboard that cause signs to pop up in the middle of the road and send them on a
You're
detour.
getting really granular with this.
Yeah,
Well,
you were
because-
speeding
but
it
it's-
up
because
Elliot.
it's important. I feel like it sets up two important things. One,
This is like
that
a 3-hour
John
long
Candy is
podcast,
the
right?
only likable person in the movie.
Yeah, all
And
right.
in his first character, and two, that there's a lot of push button gimmickry and gee whiz gadgets.
Right.
They go.
It's like a real Tomorrowland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're detoured into this town where the main business seems to be collecting junk and just strewing it about the roads. And Chevy Chase proceeds to read every sign on the road out loud because he is Andy
Like he's an
McDowell's
old
dad
man.
from Forget Paris. So,
It's just like, Applebee's.
Is that Andy
And
McDowell?
Applebee's. Look at that.
Oh, somebody else.
Jiffy Lube. Interesting.
The amount of sign reading.
Barnes and Noble.
there's a lot in this movie where something I never noticed as a kid, but which was pointed out and it was very clear while we were watching, is that there was a lot of voices dubbed in after the fact to add jokes or things or to fill
Right.
silences.
Right.
So there's a lot of like, you'll see a shot of something and you hear Chevy Chase go like, that doesn't look good. You know, like friendly folks around here.
Let's walk down this hallway, then turn left.
The wall's coming towards us. It's moving too fast. Here's a door, but it's locked. Like,
The early 90s version of Patton Oswalt got paid a lot of money to punch that stuff up.
yeah.
Well, but there are these moments of I actually think that if you took out all those ADR ad lib lines, it might be a harrowing horror film.
Yeah.
But instead, they're like, there's just a lot of silence in here. Let's get Chevy in here to just punch it up a little bit with a couple of ad libs. And Chevy Chase probably came in and said, Oh boy! And they're like, yeah, Chevy, that was great. Maybe just take another run at that. Maybe another joke. Nope, that's fine.
You're forgetting that I'm still a superstar.
Right.
Chevy, maybe take off your sunglasses.
It's a projection room. I don't know that you can see the screen.
Boy, she's real ugly. I think we got it, guys. No, Chevy,
Could you act like you're in the scene? Nope.
You're just stating things that are true. Could you?
But I don't think
A to C.
I don't think there was an instance of printed matter in the film that Chevy Chase did not read out loud for the benefit, presumably, of illiterate audience members.
Well, who else?
Not a single headline of a newspaper, not a single street sign. It's like, turn left.
Or he was doing it radio drama style later on, or he was just like, "Oh, that almost hit us."
Right? Yeah.
Thanks.
I wonder.
Chevy.
Yeah, did you think
Visual medium.
this was going to double as like the tape version that kids could buy to just listen to? The cassette tape?
The audio tape for long car
We're
rides.
running down the hallway. Beep. Turn the page.
You are listening to Nothing But Trouble. You have reached the end of cassette A. Please put in cassette B of Nothing But Trouble.
It's me, Bozo the Clown. Let me tell you a story about my friends Chevy and Demi. They had nothing but trouble. When you hear the beep, turn the page. But they're.
I wonder how much Nothing But Trouble merchandise was made.
I have to
During the movie, I Googled Nothing But Trouble merchandise, and I just found a bunch of Redbubble accounts of people's like Vulcanvania T-shirts they made. And,
Really?
later bootleg stuff.
Later bootleg stuff.
Okay.
Are you suggesting that there's a small community of troubleheads? Nothing buddies?
Not boys.
I was going to say that Troubleheads they consider to be a little bit of a slur.
But they're brought before this Justice of the Peace, played by Dan Aykroyd, who is an aged fellow and the most grotesque character until later in the movie when we meet the really most grotesque characters. And he takes sheer pleasure in killing anybody who he considers a criminal, especially bankers. Because a long time ago, bankers came and swindled them out of the title to this land, and they drilled underneath it and mined everything, and now it's hollow and full of fire. And they're forced to live there, I guess, and just be in the middle of hell. And so he sentences them.
He presides over a disgusting clan of mutants.
But not in the fun, the hills have eyes way.
No,
where they're
right.
cooking and eating a baby.
Right.
In the not
In
fun.
the horrifying Nothing But Trouble way.
And Chevy Chase just cannot help but being a cynical jerk.
Even when
He
it's
gets on the wrong side of this dude, and he says, "I will not murder you. You will stay overnight and have supper with us."
Basically, yeah.
Just to keep this dumb movie going.
But it's important right after they drop him in a ball pit.
It's full of something that is squeaky, and they must have added so many squeaks after the fact. Every move or just moment, you hear like squeak, 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 squeak. And I think as a kid, I thought it was full of rats because of the squeakiness, but nobody reacts as if it is. They go through a trap door into a ball pit. Then
I would fall into a pit full of rats long before I would spend 10 minutes in Dan Aykroyd's company.
Here's the deal, and I don't want to spoil this for anybody.
a harsh judgment.
If you go into this character's court, the character had about 15 different names. He was credited as JP for Justice of the Peace, also known as Alvin, also known as the Reeve. And
Judge, they called him.
Judge, right?
And he's basically just...
It doesn't underestimate the audience. Like, it trusts you to follow that stuff.
That's right.
And that he's the king of Vulcanvania.
They spent a lot of time building that world. There was some weird description, long, like everything else in this movie, long and unnecessary description of the political structure of this particular shire. that it adhered to pre-colonial laws of some kind.
Pre-Magna Carta laws it's established.
Right, exactly.
Is what they go by.
Right.
And so he has the power to kill anyone he wants. And it's... Yeah, there's everything in this movie takes longer than it should. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Aykroyd has like a 100-page packet of the history of these characters in this play.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, the world that he built for Ghostbusters is 10,000 pages long in his own head.
Yeah.
I mean, we know this
I've
from.
been trying to find if any listener has one of these. I've been trying to find an original script for Ghostbusters when it was about him and John Belushi traveling through time and alternate dimensions, and the idea, and there was like a version of New York that was like a hell version of New York, and the idea was that there were different teams of Ghostbusters that traveled through space and time fighting demon ghosts from other dimensions. Like, I want to read this script so badly because it's like, I don't know how that turned into Ghostbusters, one of the most stripped down, clearest concepts, which is that like three buddies fight ghosts. Like
they're exterminators, basically.
Yeah, they're exterminators, but for ghosts.
This is how it happened. Someone said, "Hey Dan, you're amazing. Thank you for this. This is great. You're brilliant. But we're gonna do this instead." And Dan goes like, "All right, sounds good to me."
How many different characters with weird prosthetics on their face do I get to play?
Well, right, but I mean, this was the movie where no one said to Dan Aykroyd,
Yeah.
no. They just said yes, and this is the pure distillation of the spirit of Aykroyd in a crystal head skull bottle.
And they're his captives. He feeds them a dinner of big hot dogs. They introduce him to his granddaughter, also played by John Candy.
And we also see another group of ne'er-do-wells featuring at least one Baldwin, possibly three, I don't know.
It's the two couples who are drinking, doing drugs, driving too fast. Like every crime a person could commit in a car, they're doing that. And they get pulled over and they're sentenced immediately to be put on a conveyor belt into a roller coaster that that's called the Bone Stripper?
Mr. Bone Stripper.
Mr. Bone Stripper.
Sorry, Mr. Bone Stripper lives in Florida. Call me Tad.
Tad Bone Stripper.
And the Bone Stripper is just revolving gears and knives that literally strip the flesh from your bones and then spit the bones out at a target. There are so many piles of human bones in this movie, which, as Dan pointed out, are almost all femurs. Every time there's a skull or a rib cage, he's been killing a lot of people with 10 legs.
It's like in certain versions of the video game Mortal Kombat where you perform a fatality and it's all like chicken bones flying in the air after you punch somebody. You're like, that guy was 4 rib cages, I guess.
Vulcanvania has a very high crime rate among centaurs because there's this extra leg bones everywhere. Or like Spider-Man.
I really like picturing you, Stuart, as a young man playing Mortal Kombat going, well, this is anatomically incorrect. This is not possible.
I'll stop masturbating now, I guess.
You made me a promise. No one go near this machine.
If you must perform a babality and not a fatality.
Right, so they kill
So
off...
you're saying there was a pogrom amongst the centaurs in Vulcanvania.
And and this judge is to blame. And so the stakes have been established.
Right.
If they are on this judge's bad side, they
Their
will be
bones
killed.
will literally be stripped.
Yeah, and they don't get those bones back. The judge
No.
gets to keep them.
They don't even
Right,
get
he
buried.
keeps them in his walls. Along with his slides.
A series of slides
And secret
trapdoors.
passages.
It's like the way a kid understands an old house to be, which is like, that's a big house. It must be full of traps and slides. As opposed to, this is an old house. The structure really can't support all this extra stuff. Like the walls are not going to be full of slides and machinery and stuff like that. But at this point, they're served a disgusting dinner. There's a train that goes around with condiments on it while a song plays. This happens twice.
It was
This
the
is the
Wabash
centerpiece.
Cannonball. Was
Yeah.
the
Was
song.
it? Oh, I didn't recognize
It's
it.
the centerpiece of the movie. Like, this is where...
And the centerpiece of the dinner table.
Right.
There's so many unnecessary gadgets, and every room is full. It looks like they went to somebody on the show Hoarders, and they were like, "Can we just shoot this movie in your house?" And
Can we add some stuff?
a few things. We
As
have
long as you pay me in cat skeletons.
throw a little few.
Well,
more
we can't, but we have some femurs.
Good enough. Throw some more busted typewriters over there, and some more old whatever. I don't know. Go to the dump. Pick up like 3 tons of shit and just like drop it around the house.
I would like to see. I'm going to look up who the set decorator
I mean, the
was.
second set decorator did. They didn't
No,
do
he did a fantastic job.
Yo
feel like
person's work.
the quality of the job was not amazing, but the quantity of the job was astounding.
But if you
The set decorations are pretty amazing.
if you find it inherently funny to have phallic sausages served to people at a dinner. Oh boy!
If you want to watch,
Oh brother!
if you want to watch an old
let me
man
ask you this
suck down a
question.
sausage.
I love that joke so much that I'd like to see it 7 or 8 times. Does this movie have anything for me?
and everybody.
Oh, sister.
So John Candy and Drag is serving up sausages out of a steamer tray. Every time she presents it to someone, they react as if they've never seen a sausage before. And
They're horrified by the very idea of something long and tube shaped.
of like a delicious thing that everybody likes to eat. If they like to eat.
Demi Moore takes about 3 minutes to manhandle a ants on the log onto her plate,
John
as if she
Candy-
doesn't realize she could use her left hand to pick this piece of celery up.
John Candy goes, ants on a log, and Demi Moore reacts as if it was the eyeball soup from Temple of Doom. Like she just said, oh, there's monkey brains. I don't know how to handle this. But so after this is where
It is kind of a funny joke, though. Like, if I went to a formal dinner party and someone offered me
I
ants
would
on a
hardly
log,
call it a formal dinner party.
look, they're
It's not black tie. There's no place cards.
okay. You're right. They did not dress for dinner.
It's
I
just dinner.
apologize.
Yeah. But ants on a log is a funny thing for them to serve.
Yeah.
And
Well,
adults.
yeah. If it had just been like ants on a log, then that's the joke.
Yeah.
Done. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
But instead, she's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
How do I pick this up? How does any human handle this?
I've never understood this. Do I need tongs?
Mm-hmm.
But so to make a long story short, they run around this mansion forever. Taylor Negron and his sister wife, I guess just his sister, they escape, helped by John Candy.
Mm-hmm.
And Demi Moore and Chevy Chase find themselves in an attic full of driver's licenses from previous victims.
Yeah, when they smoke the 8th cigar that Chevy Chase apparently has on.
Chevy Chase is constantly pulling cigars out of his pocket and smoking them, and it's like how many? And he has a humidor jacket.
Yep. Like, sure, I'll do this movie for you as a favor. You have to pay me in cigars.
Yeah, underneath my suit jacket, I'm just gonna be wearing a Chewbacca bandolier of cigars. So just be ready for me to pull them out. He and Demi Moore hit it off because I guess the fear of death.
the script said that
them-
it had to happen.
It's the realization that how large this conspiracy goes.
Yeah,
But also, like, if I have never seen, I think, in any movie, two larger blanks than these two main characters.
I mean they're rich yuppies, which means we like them because it's,
Right. Oh, they made it.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Right.
successful.
Yeah.
Well, like I was saying while we were watching it, that this took place during the first of what I'm going to call the Trump crests, when Donald Trump went from being like a vulgar, horrible thing to like someone that people admired and wanted to be like, and then he fell back down again, and now he's back on the top of the second Trump crest. But like at the time, it was like, are you rich and like white and like attractive? You must be the best person in the world.
Yeah, you're the hero of the movie now.
Yeah, like you're the hero.
You're
Yeah,
Chevy
good-
Chase.
Yeah.
It's the
Do you have a nice car? Oh, great. I love you.
it's
Do you have clearly defined motives? No. Who cares?
it's similar to how in Teen Wolf, his best friend Boof is objectively more attractive than the girl he's going after, but she's blonde and Boof is a brunette. So scientifically, the blonde
ugly.
is more desirable.
You'll never
That's
get
just
you'll
the way
never
it
get
works.
over Boof. You're never
She's-
going to get
I
over
like her
Boof.
a lot, yeah.
right. Well,
I mean, I feel
and
like
she's got the name Boof, which is
and Boof is a-
inherently adorable.
It adds an air of mystery to her.
how did she get that name and what's her real name?
there
It's
is
an acronym.
there is absolutely. I actually felt that Chevy Chase was like the movie opens in a realistic setting,
Yeah,
like where you feel like, oh, this is going to be some sort of screwball, modern screwball comedy about Wall Street, and Chevy Chase has got a certain amount of charm to him. He's got a little bit of roguish charm, and he's kind of underplaying everything. And I'm like, well, I'm going to see this movie, and then it takes this hard left turn into phony Tim Burton territory. And you never know why she's going along, and they have zero chemistry with each other. And then all of a sudden they are sentenced by the judge to spend the night together in a room. And then
which is like a sitcom judge sentence or like romantic comedy movie. Like
Right.
this couple's divorcing. Well, I sentence you to spend one night in a cabin alone together to see if there really is no spark left.
And guess
Can you
what?
do that, Judge?
There's no spark in there. Never was a spark. They have zero. They're absolutely nothing about their characters or their performances suggests that they should be together. Chevy Chase, of course, makes the moves on Demi Moore, and every.
Kind of.
Well, I mean, he's kind of
Gives her a cigar.
he gives her a cigar, right? I mean, in a movie full of phallic symbols, that was the most subtle one he could do. And he kind of like makes a couple of sort of obligatory moves on her, and then she just goes, "I have to kiss you," on your face a lot.
Yeah.
And I love you, and I fall for the wrong man all the time, but now I have to go to sleep. And then she goes away. And it was such a strange
It
moment, right?
It felt like a dream sequence, and since it came shortly after a moment where we all assume Chevy Chase dreams that Dan Aykroyd's character's nose is an actual penis,
This is handled so poorly.
moments
It's
away
literally
from
like
spurting semen all over the
Dan
hot dog
Aykroyd
he's
is-
shoving in his mouth.
Dan Aykroyd's talking to him. It cuts to Chevy Chase. It cuts back, and Dan Aykroyd is wearing a much more penis-like prosthetic
And it
nose.
started out pretty penis-like.
Yeah, and then it cuts back to Chevy Chase, and he's like, "Huh?" And then it cuts back to Dan Aykroyd looking the way he did before in the slightly less penis nose. But
Right.
there's no there's no filter on the image to make sure you know it's a dream. It's just like it's almost like they did a take with the wrong prosthetic on, and then Dan Aykroyd saw his reflection in a mirror and was like, "Oh, we said no to this one because it looked too much like a penis. Give me the other one." But they left the take in.
I can only assume
Guarantee. No, here's what let's go ahead.
I'm just saying that I'm assuming there's an entire cut of the movie where he shot with the more penis.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like that's where I feel like they finally said to Dan Aykroyd, you can't wear that. You can't wear that in the movie. And he's like, let me have it for one scene.
The first movie that got an NC-17 for explicit nose.
He said, "Trust me, people are gonna love it. You said the same thing about you getting a blowjob from a ghost, and it's the one scene nobody likes in that movie, Dan."
That's true. I just rewatched Ghostbusters with my children, and I'm like, oh, come on.
And that was part of a whole other sequence that got cut.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it.
Well, go on.
They're at the
it's they-
Museum of Natural History or something like that.
Something like that, or the Met, or I don't know. But
How did you explain that to your children? By the way,
Yeah,
I
Daddy,
don't.
why did his eyes cross?
Just stare straight ahead and don't make eye contact. And get through it and see if any questions bubble up. And it's like, no? All right, good.
Look, you'll get blowjobs from a ghost when you're ready for it.
Yeah. You'll understand later when a ghost blows you.
when a creep and a ghost love each other very much.
Now I like to imagine that your children turn to you and they're like, "Dad, is there anything you want us to explain about what just happened there?"
Yeah, right.
Because I know you're from a more innocent time.
It's true. It's true. When there weren't ectoplasmic blowjobs all over the place on Snapchat or whatever.
So they manage to escape because John Candy pulls a lever that opens a door for them, and
Yeah, he takes pity on them.
he does. He's the nicest guy. He's just trying to do his job as a policeman. Now, now they're on the run. Chevy Chase manages to watch as Dan Aykroyd gets ready for bed and pulls his own nose off, and then
No, wait a minute. You jumped ahead.
wait.
First of all, before he sees the nose coming off, they leave their bedroom. Then
Oh, yeah, a
a trick
wall
wall
tries
starts
to
to
crush
them. Chevy Chase narrates exactly what the wall is doing at every moment. And now it's 5 feet away. Now it's 3 feet away. Now it's 2 feet away. Let's go up these stairs. Oh, it's a blind staircase. They go up into the attic. It's rigged. There's a booby trap in the attic that they
a
almost get
safe
crushed
to
by
hit
a safe.
Because Wile E. Coyote designed this house for them.
Exactly, because the attic is the repository of all of the driver's licenses and passports that have been confiscated by the Dan Aykroyd character and his forefathers over hundreds of years.
Yeah, it's the rare evidence attic. Right. Instead of the evidence at the top, instead of in the dungeon.
Right, exactly.
But they end up going down slides that are.
Then they go down slides, but the slides make a forking path.
Yeah, Chevy Chase watches Dan Aykroyd get ready for bed, and Demi Moore ends
Through
up
his Porky's hole.
Yeah, and Demi Moore ends up and Dan Aykroyd catches him and whatever, and Demi Moore ends up in the junkyard where we finally meet the most grotesque
The most
characters,
unpleasant thing
which
in the
are
movie.
two enormous.
And let's just say again,
Man
this is a
babies.
movie in which Dan Aykroyd has a penis on his nose.
What
It's
if
unmistakably a penis.
It's like Dan Aykroyd was like, "I'm worried there are people who are still going to be like enjoying this movie."
There might still be people in the theater by this point. How can we get them out?
Because this is an elaborate
a
producer
producer's scheme.
style scam. Yeah, because I'm trying to make the least successful movie in history. How do we drive out that extra person who fell asleep during the beginning of the film and is still in there? How about two enormous, mentally deficient man babies who are wearing huge
They're
latex fat suits that jiggle a lot and are constantly
Yeah,
wet.
they've got double man
double man
Double man
peckers
boobs.
and huge dirty diapers and
and a giant gut, and they're all really oily.
and talk in like a duh type way, and it's implied become sexually attracted to Demi Moore, or maybe want to eat her. Like it's
they keep her in a cage and play cards with
giant
her.
man babies.
Right.
They play cards, and it's at that point I feel like where the movie has gone from semi-realistic to bizarre,
That's
and then
the
from
point.
bizarre to like nightmare.
That's the point that Dan Aykroyd put into the movie. He was like, this is going to be really great for people who have a really high fever when they're watching this at home.
Because
They'll be trying to explain it to people later on, and the other people will be like, no, that didn't happen.
sure
It's
you
like,
saw it,
"Surely
man,
that-"
babies. Sure you saw it. No, I did, Sarge. I promise I did. Take him away, boys.
These
Oh,
two.
why did I try to explain this to an Irish police officer?
Take him away. Nothing to see here. Certainly no man babies.
These two characters are so shockingly repulsive on every level
Everything about them.
that I kind of was speechless for a moment, and there was a moment where I was wondering, like, maybe I have this all wrong. Maybe this is art. Like,
I had to leave the room at this point.
I can't help during scenes like this in movies. I can't help imagining like, what was it like to be on set while they're shooting this? Like, was anyone there under the impression that like this is funny stuff that we're making? Like, just imagine like the technical crew who they don't give a shit about the content of the movie they're working on. A job's a job, and they have to watch these two overpaid actors, one of whom is also the director and is giving them direction while wearing this giant oiled up man baby costume, and they have to watch him jiggle around and like do
like,
a dumb
goo
guy
goo
voice.
gaga.
How do you work for this man?
Hold this thing. I'm trying to kill someone.
I have to assume those were the last scenes shot because nobody would work with Dan Aykroyd after that.
What I would love is it's one of the last days, and the makeup artist is like, look, I brought my son. He's a huge Ghostbusters fan. He's always wanted to meet Dan Aykroyd. Let me bring him onto set today. Oh no, he has to meet him this day.
And it's like that what is it, the long jaunt? Like this the kid, his hair goes white and he's blind and he's just like, ah!
Yeah, the Stephen King short story. The kid's eyes have been torn out.
It's longer than you think. Luckily, Dan Aykroyd's
Well, then they
granddaughter-
reunite and escape. I mean, who cares?
Well,
Is there a
Chevy
point?
Chase-
Like, at
Chevy
this
Chase-
point-
well, no,
At
because
this point, who cares?
we skip both that one. Chevy Chase is almost forced to marry Dan Aykroyd's granddaughter, played by John Candy.
He does marry
He does
her.
marry her to get out of being killed, and then inexplicably, Digital
Oh,
Underground
right, I
shows
forgot.
up,
That you
That
have
is
to
worth
mention
talking
that.
about.
That is
performs
worth-
a song. Dan Aykroyd boogies with them by playing the organ, and then allows them to go. But first, they'll be the
excuse
band
me,
at the
just
wedding.
for the Digital Underground people in the audience, the song they performed was all the same song. I think it's from Sex Packets, and it features both Shock G and Humpty,
So that's not.
as well as backing vocals by Tupac Shakur.
So it's not a song that they wrote for the movie. That was already a digital.
No, and maybe it wasn't on Sex Packets. Maybe it was in their follow-up record, because that would be around the time of their follow-up.
I remember
record.
the
and this is
video,
probably them
though.
trying to launch their next album.
Yeah, the video had a bunch of stuff from the movie because I hadn't seen the movie when I saw the video, and I was like, "This looks great." As a child, for some reason, like clips of this movie were just enough to like give me a little bit of a taste, a little bit of an appetizer.
So what
Yeah.
You Could Be Mine was to Terminator 2, one of the better syntheses of song to video that's mainly scenes from a movie. This was to all the same song.
Kinda. I mean, I don't remember it features a scene at the end where like that wasn't featured in the actual movie where characters interact, like at the end of the "You Could Be Mine" video,
Yeah,
where
where
Yeah.
the Terminator determines that Guns N' Roses are in fact a waste of ammunition.
Yeah, or Freddy Krueger in that Dokken video.
Yeah, where he's like, "Who are those guys? They're super terrifying."
Well, when you saw the video of the song, did it include the Dan Aykroyd and old man prosthetics jamming out on the pipe organ
I'm sure
sequence?
it did. I don't know what was wrong with me as a child. I think my parents let me watch TV in the basement, and it just warped my
I mean, you're
mind.
talking-
Well, you
Somebody who
lived in a house that was full of slides and traps and trapdoors.
Because he's sending people through the bone-eating roller coaster.
Mr. Bone Stripper.
Yep.
Mr. Bone Stripper.
My parents told me our family history with like a burned out half TV set that they fanned in
Mr.
from a cave
Bone
painting.
Stripper.
Gonna
Because
strip for
you
you.
lived in the play
Mr.
The Skin of Our
Bone
Teeth.
Stripper.
This
Bone
weird mashup
strip.
of modern and ancient times.
I like this soft melodic version of the Mr. Bone Stripper theme.
Yeah.
This is the Mr. Bone Jangles version.
Bone jangles.
No, but it is worth.
Mr. Bone Stripper, strip some bones for me.
This is it is worth mentioning that the Digital Underground thing is easily the best scene in the movie because it is just a musical break. You get to forget that the movie is not happening. You get to forget the movie that's happening.
Digital Underground's doing what they do best, make music. There's women in skimpy clothes dancing around. It's suddenly like we're watching The Box, the old music video channel where you would call in and pay $3 to get them to play a video, and the video "Pop Your Coochie" was constantly playing. But it's
Thompson's wearing his nose, and all is right with the world.
Look, you guys, as I mentioned, I am Brookline, Massachusetts' biggest Digital Underground fan, and I love that band. And I think Shock G is a genius. I think Humpty Hump is an incredible invention. And I think their songs are terrific. And that guy, Shock G, if you're out there, call me because I want to know what's going on with you. Because that guy had tons of charisma in that movie. He should have been a movie star. And Tupac was also like commanded the screen the few seconds he was on
It's
it.
amazing how much genuine magnetism they have in this one scene.
Yeah.
And there's a part where they're leaving, and Chevy Chase is like, "No, no, no!" And he goes, "Hey, I was nervous on my wedding day too." And as he's walking out, and it is the funniest joke in the whole movie.
Yeah. And the most genuine ad lib.
He's created a character. You're like, I want to know more about this.
I want to know. I want to follow. Can we go with?
You're like, he's married.
Can we go with them now? Yeah, that's right. He's got a backstory all of a sudden.
It's one of the few movies where he left and followed a bunch of basically featured players and just follow them on their adventure, like Pulp Fiction style.
Right.
It'd be like, that was the right creative choice to make.
That was a crazy thing that just happened, but now I'm glad we're the Digital Underground. Tupac. So Chevy Chase said, I looked it up, that he hated the script, but he had to make it because Dan Aykroyd was his friend, and it was the worst movie he had ever been in. In the next year, he would make Memoirs of an Invisible Man. And then the year after that, he made Cops and Robertsons. The year after this movie, Tupac Shakur was in Juice.
Okay.
And was suddenly a true movie star.
So you're saying that
they peed in a fountain?
they held a magic skull that was on set?
Something happened.
So you're saying Chevy Chase was meant to be murdered in a drive-by, whereas Tupac Shakur, it should be on Community.
Well, you know what? I think all of America is agreeing with you right now. And we all know how the West Coast rappers hated Chevy Chase. I mean,
huge feud.
Look at history, man.
It was a subset of the everybody versus Chevy Chase feud, the Planet Earth versus Chevy Chase battle.
I can only imagine Chevy Chase and Dr. Dre at the California Love video tooling around in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
In a dune buggy.
Right.
Just rescuing those babes from that warlord. So
Chevy Chase just humming "Call Me Al."
So in the end, they escape. There's a wonderful moment where they're escaping in what remains of Chevy Chase's car, and Demi Moore says, "There's no seatbelts," and he goes, "There's no roof," and their mouths are not moving while these lines come up. At that point, they're like, "Fuck it. I know they're on camera. We'll just dub it in anyway." And they escape. They go to the police. The police come with them to the judge's house with a huge convoy of troopers and everything, because this man has been murdering people for decades. Turns out they're all the judge's friends. They love him. They like that he's taken out the trash, and they're about to.
It's a classic horror movie reversal.
Yeah, that it turns out the world is insane.
Turns out Dr. Saperstein's in on it.
Yeah, that's
you know what I'm talking about.
I think so.
It's a Rosemary's Baby reference.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
we call that a malign paradigm shift. When you realize that all the other
forgot the
patrons
doctor's
in the medieval bar that you're in are actually werewolves. Everything you thought about reality is wrong.
Yeah. It's a real society take.
Yep, exactly.
So
Luckily, the movie doesn't linger on that moment long at all.
No, the one
Gets back to
moment
the
of
laughs.
genuine unsettlingness.
Sorry.
Luckily, the earthquake that's been hinted at throughout the movie because the ground is so unstable.
Well, there's been a coal fire for 26 years.
Oh, that's right.
Which is based on Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Where there has been a coal fire that's been burning for now probably 46
If only
years.
Pennsylvania was within driving distance of New York, and they could have set the movie there. But unfortunately, it's on the other side of the country.
Right.
And I guess because Chevy Chase blew up a bunch of barrels trying to escape from the the like full body guillotine that the men baby were about to subject Demi Moore through.
Against their will, they loved her.
Yeah, that hit a fault line, I guess, or something. Which also then
I didn't make that connection.
That's my guess. I don't know because it's not very clear.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that point, I had stopped worrying about whether anything was causing anything else to happen in the movie at all, or if it was just happening.
I mean, the movie posits a world where there is no logic or causality.
Right.
And God hates
an uncaring God.
Yeah, God not only uncaring, hates man and wants man to suffer, and has brought, much like the judge in Blood Meridian, we have the judge in Nothing But Trouble, who is just an agent of evil, who perhaps is as old as the universe and will outlive man and exists only to take joy in the seduction and then destruction of others. But so that hits, they escape again, and they're back in New York, and they find out on the TV news that the judge has survived and he's going to come get them. Chevy Chase literally jumps up, and you see a Chevy Chase shaped hole in the wall as if he ran through it like Bugs Bunny.
Merry-Go-Round Broke Down plays on the soundtrack.
I mean, if this was Gremlins 2, I'd be like, yes, definitely. But
and that was the moment. So Chevy Chase is in New York, and he's
That was
watching
one of the many
coverage.
moments in which I looked over at Hodgman to see how did he react to this.
Well, because that was the return of the penis nose at that moment too. I mean,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
that was it was not just that so Chevy Chase is in New York watching television coverage of the mine fire, and they find an old vagrant, and it turns out to be Dan Aykroyd, and he turns to the camera, and he's got that penis nose on, and he's like, "I'm coming for you," and then Chevy goes, "Feet don't fail me now." The end, and everyone's like, "Thank you."
And the credits roll, and somewhere in the dusty corner of a Planet Hollywood, the facial prosthetic of Dan Aykroyd sits.
I like that there's a Planet Hollywood in like Bangkok that's been demolished because it couldn't sustain itself, and all the props were taken out except that one, and the camera pushes through the rubble and pushes past like. There's a group of street people who are coming down with strange diseases, and it pushes in on that prosthetic, and it just glows briefly, and then cut to credits. Like its evil is still inside it, waiting for a new host.
Now I'm going to say something that may be controversial at this table.
Wow, okay.
Okay,
Let me steel
Let's get
myself.
I felt that Dan Aykroyd's performance was fantastic.
I think I'll give you that he is playing that character as much as that character can be played.
Yes.
It's just he gives himself no funny things to do.
Well, he shouldn't be funny.
He should be creepy scary.
This was Dan Aykroyd's attempt to make either a horror movie or like a horror comedy, either like a gothic horror comedy like a Tim Burton, or as we were saying, like a freak out horror comedy like Texas Chainsaw. And the problem was he couldn't make a Tim Burton movie because he doesn't have good taste or discretion or restraint of any kind, and he doesn't know how to direct a movie.
Tim Burton, a director known for his restraint.
Well, right, but I mean, like
point,
when you
he
think
was-
about
Taste, maybe,
when
but
you
not
think about this
restraint.
movie in contrast to like Beetlejuice, which had a lot of upper class sort of, the straights in the movie were these upper class rich people, and that they were the grotesques, and the monsters were the sort of freewheeling agents of chaos that you kind of liked, even when Beetlejuice was terrifying, right? Well, so if in this movie, they had it the other way around. They made the monsters, they made the grotesque characters the villains and the rich people the heroes, when it should have been the other way around.
Well, when you're talking about like country versus city, the country is only good in a horror movie. Like the country are the oppressors in a horror movie because it's like the backwoods maniacs. In a comedy, country always beats city. Like city's always
Just
the bad
about,
guys.
yeah.
Right.
Because
Crocodile Dundee's. If that's a comedy, is that a comedy?
Sure,
I don't
sure.
know.
But city's
There's not
bad.
a lot of jokes in
like
it, but-
like even if country in a horror movie is an agent of murder, right, and terror and horror, it's always because the city kids deserve it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because they're shallow or they kissed each other or something, or they crossed some taboo.
I mean, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think it's just that they're super irritating.
TCM1 or TCM2?
TCM1, especially Wheelchair Kid.
Wheelchair Kid.
I think it's
that's what's so brave about that movie is it made Wheelchair Kid the worst.
I think it was Joe Bob Briggs who was saying that like never has an audience wanted a handicapped character to be murdered more than in that movie.
Well, that's why that movie is art.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie is not.
But there's like so Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember the first time I saw that. There's the scene where they wake up Grandpa, and he's going to. They want him to use a hammer to bash that woman's head in,
God,
and he just can't quite lift it up. And they're like, "Come on, Grandpa! Come on, Grandpa!" And it's so frightening, and disturbing, but it's kind of funny that like, But and it was like. That moment is what every moment of Nothing But Trouble wants to be, but but it can't pull it off. It's just not successful.
Right.
And instead, the movie becomes scarier for that. Like, it's not as scary as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it's scarier to me that somebody wanted to make this movie. Like, this madman is on the loose selling vodka.
Yeah, and this is like, in real life, there's a monster out there. There's a Canadian monster who's completely unpredictable, and we don't know what's motivating him. And he's making us do things against our will. Like, he held that cast against their will in that, and not just the cast, but the crew as well.
And they're a cast who, I mean, John Candy also delivers a great performance. Like, he commits to he had to have known it wasn't good.
Right, but that's because he could tap into his character, who I think is supposed to be the grandson of Dan Aykroyd, who's been the sheriff in town all this time.
Yeah,
and he kind of takes pity on these people and kind of just wants to get them out of there. And that's because he was able to tap into his own feelings about the movie. Like, let me just be straight with you. You don't want to be here.
When he's saying he says to Chevy Chase's character, like, look, I'm going to ignore the fact that you were speeding. You went through a stop sign. Let me just take you to the judge. I'll recommend you have a fine. Then you can go. And Chevy Chase talks himself into a death sentence. Right. But it's like John Candy saying to the audience, let's just end the movie now.
Yeah, let's
just figure it out.
Right.
Go.
You probably got a couple laughs.
I forgive you for buying the ticket.
I know you paid $5 to see this, and then another $4 for popcorn.
Right.
Take the popcorn home. Finish it there.
Cut your losses. Your losses and get out.
Look, it's 1991. It's Friday. Go watch TGIF.
Right.
There's a new Perfect Strangers. Maybe Full House.
Put that popcorn in the fridge. It'll be good tomorrow, right?
You know what? Sometimes I like it.
You stir your popcorn right in the fridge.
Yeah. It keeps it crisp.
Keep it in there.
Put it in the crisper.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
But popcorn crisper drawer.
What is the science behind the crisper?
Well, there's what we call crisp elves, which are tiny elves that make things crisper by adding little bits of cement.
Are they crisp elves or crisp imps? Crisp imps.
That's a question that science has really been debating for a long time. Oh, well, I mean, Crisp Imp Glover is one of the main...
But what I'm saying is, if someone else had produced and directed this movie and just said, here's what happens. The creeps from the city are creeps and they need to be punished, and your character has to be actually not funny but terrifying. Dan Aykroyd's performance, even if you just re-edited that movie, I bet you it would be totally watchable and weird performance.
Because I don't necessarily...
Because I thought he acted the heck out of that thing.
I don't mind that any of our heroes are being put through the ringer. Like, they're not likable at all. I don't mind that they have to suffer a little.
Right. I want to get Rob Zombie to go back and re-edit that
movie. Rob Zombie's Nothing But Trouble.
Rob.
Such a crazy origin story if it turned out that this was his favorite movie growing up. Like, everything makes sense about you now, Rob Zombie.
It's very. What are the House of 10,000 Corpses?
House of 10,000 Corpses, and what's the one about the devils?
The Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
Did you like those movies?
I've never seen all of them all the way through. Like, I've only seen pieces.
They're ridiculous, but kind of great.
And I haven't seen.
I like those movies.
I like the Devil's Rejects up until the final scene. Spoiler alert, where they feature a lot of people. Okay.
Well, I mean,
sorry, I just do that sometimes.
When I see these movies, it's going to be based around if I'm ever alone and Danielle's out of town, because I know there's certain movies I can't even watch when I know she might walk through the room, because I don't want to expose her to like the images that she's going to see. If I'm watching it on the iPad while I'm doing the dishes, which is when I watch most of my movies these days, I know there's a chance she might walk over to get a glass of water and see something that.
Oh,
she does
what you watching there?
What's that? Oh, is that one of them? Oh, those Devil Rejects?
It's just somebody's grandpa trying to hit someone with a hammer.
Is that Bill Moseley? I love that actor.
Oh, are you watching a Sid Haig movie?
What's Sid Haig up to nowadays?
That's when you turn into an Irish cop. Move along.
No, nothing to see
more
here, nothing to see here.
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
So should we go to Final Judgment?
Yeah, we should go to Final Judgment.
I liked it. Movie I kind of liked. No.
Is this a movie? Is this a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie you kind of liked? I'm gonna start off and say that this may no longer be my least favorite movie of all time. I will say that because we've gone through so much in our years doing the Flophouse that I've seen so many movies that bore me so much more than this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, like there's something. It has a quixotic charm to it. That, like, I'm just baffled by why anyone did it. That makes me it's kind of lovable in a weird way.
I'm so glad that doing this podcast for 8.5 years has accomplished something.
Yeah.
You hate Nothing But Trouble slightly less.
So that's my feelings on it. It's just such a weird movie that it's kind of Stockholm syndrome me a little bit.
Did you give John our categories?
Oh, well,
You just said them.
I mean, a good
Good,
bad movie.
I know, yeah. Good,
Okay.
bad.
Bad. I think that these are self-explanatory categories.
I think
you're humoring somebody who's drunk and wasn't paying attention. That's me, Stuart.
I mean,
So I think
been
it was
doing this for years. You shouldn't.
What was the third?
What?
So the categories are good, bad,
and a movie you kind of like.
and a
Yeah,
movie
which
you
is a
kind
movie
of
that
like.
you-
So it's a movie that
genuinely have.
actually like transcends the like, oh, I'm just watching this bad movie for fun, like irony.
Where you're
element.
like, oh, I enjoyed this on a sincere level.
But a good
Right.
bad movie, something that you're like, this is stupid. I'd watch this with friends and have some yucks.
And bad is just get it away.
yeah, get it up.
Yeah.
Which this movie is still a bad movie. As a child, I would say that this is a good, great movie. I love this thing. As a grown up, I do not like it at all. It's terrible.
Did you enjoy it as a child? Did you watch it as a child?
I watched it a bunch as a child, I'm sure, and like I think I like the like carnival aspect of it, and I like horror movies a lot. So I think I'm the Rob Zombie in this story.
one of us has to be.
I really feel that it verges on bad just because I've rarely been physically repulsed in a way. Like, well, not physically. I see gory movies. I see weird movies. Like I saw those Rob Zombie movies. Like that's some hard stuff to sit through. Mm-hmm. But I found it compelling. In this case, I found it mind-bendingly confusing as to why a human would ever think another human would even look at such a thing. It didn't sell its imagery in any way. It didn't make it. And yet I have to say that I think that it was truly an expression of one individual's personal creativity, wildly misguided, and a grotesque train wreck that I am glad to have seen after all of these years. So I don't want to say it's a good, bad movie like, hey, you put this on, you'll have a great time. But I think I have to say that it's a bad movie, but every now and then I think we need to see what a really bad movie is to remind us.
It's a character building experience.
Yeah, it is. It's not boring. It's like, I agree with Dan. It's not boring. It's compellingly awful. And
Yeah.
there are many questions that it raises that I like thinking about. Including
Now-
the question, like, could it have been good? And I think it could have been good.
And if people say Nothing But Trouble to you, you will think of things from this movie. Like there are images that will haunt you. I would
never
imagine.
go away. Well, I think I am with Dan only in that I didn't hate it as much as I did as a child. If only because I now have the emotional stability as an adult to be able to say like, no, that is not the world that I live in. I recognize that this is a strange way of viewing things, as opposed to when I was a kid, when I was like, I've seen these people in other movies and they're really funny. So if I think this is horrifying and not enjoyable, like, am I wrong here?
Right.
So
It made you question your own sanity.
yeah. So it's a bad movie, but by watching with you guys, I feel like I've exercised some of those demons a little bit.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
Because-
we've all had some good therapy.
And I still don't know why as a kid I watched it so many times just because it was on. you
Right.
know, But like there are certain scenes in this. There's a shot in the movie where Taylor Negron and his sister are just walking in a funny way into a parking garage, and like that moment was burned into my brain. And like there's so many random shots in this that I remember so well, and I'm like, Okay, good. Now I can kind of lay them to rest a little bit. You know, I've delivered the mummified corpse of Mama's baby to her, and now maybe she'll leave my own children alone.
That's totally not going to happen.
No.
Spoiler alert at the end of Mama.
They're like, "You want this, right?" And Mama's like, "No,
I don't want this garbage.
a live child.
Football spike.
I'm going to turn into a wig and crawl around the ground a little bit again." So Dan, that sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Dan is busy adjusting a cat in some way. And so, Dan.
I'm glad that we had some group therapy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this was very helpful for me.
You guys worked through a lot of stuff having seen this movie many times, and I've worked through something having never seen it before.
Sorry, Archie somehow managed to get his cone off, and I had to put the cone back on. Archie got neutered recently, so
Archie's Dan's cat, not a human in the apartment.
Not a human with a cone.
This is it.
Oh, by the way, Dan keeps a number of humans prisoner in his home, and they makes them
put
wear
cones
cones,
on
and he
them.
Well, we might-
makes them go through Mr. Bone Stripper.
cone
Now,
stripper.
If they,
Yeah, but what listeners may never have known is that Dan is a kind of gothic, grotesque justice of the peace in a tiny town known as Dan's apartment.
You are inviting,
Pennsylvania.
you're
Pennsylvania.
inviting some terrible fan art, Elliot.
Oh yeah, I don't want that. Yeah, Dan, get ready for a picture of you as the. This is one of the few movies where I feel like I've never seen an image of it online, and there's a reason for that because they're horrifying to look at.
Yeah, it's not like you go to Comic-Con and you're like, oh, look at all this great Nothing But Trouble cosplay.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's
That
Little
you know
Devil.
what? That would be amazing.
To go as Bobo and Little
Bobo and Little Devil. It's Lil Devil.
Little
I looked in the credits.
I now have a cat in my lap. The aforementioned cat is leapt up into my
Lupped up.
Lupped up.
leapt up.
Yep.
That's the sound a heart makes. Lupped up, lupped up, lupped up.
But
Why am I laughing?
I
I was
urge
as
you.
surprised as you were.
I urge you not to skip ahead on your podcast machine, even though we're going to take a little moment to ask you for some money.
Yeah. We're gonna shake you. Hopefully, some money will fall out.
Yeah.
and land
Now,
in the Max Fun coffers.
Now everyone has money that they use to buy lunch during the school day. We
Yeah.
want you to give us your lunch money in exchange, normally for nothing. In exchange, normally for not being beaten.
Yeah.
But for this case, it's an exchange for high quality audio entertainment.
We'll keep the other bully podcasts away from you.
It's cool. It's cool. He pledged.
Yeah, I mean, if you're anything like me,
You have a neutered cat in your lap that you're massaging the glands of.
that I'm desperately trying to keep from leaping across into my co-host's allergic face.
Because much like a ghost to Dan Aykroyd, Archie wants nothing more than to shove his face in my lap. Mm-hmm. And me being allergic, I don't like that. There's so many episodes now where I've had to maintain focus on what I'm saying while I'm shoving a cat out of my lap.
yeah.
And I've had to talk while playing with a cat with some kind of a colored string toy.
Yeah, that's a big cross to bear.
No, what I was going to say is if you're anything like me, podcasts are actually a pretty major source of entertainment in your life. I listen to them more often than not when I'm commuting. I listen to them when I'm walking around in the city.
Doing chores,
if I'm
probably.
Yeah,
Fashioning new cat cones.
exactly.
In the dark of the night when you're keeping the demons at bay.
I'm just saying,
I
like,
need some other voice to drown out the one in my head.
they're a source of entertainment for me
But
that
not just entertainment, information.
yeah.
Companionship.
Companionship. Comfort in the dark.
Yeah. I want to know some digital underground facts. I will go to John Hodgman.
Look, I'm going to break it down for you guys, and maybe this is a little too harsh. Ultimately, we're all alone in the universe.
Okay.
No one will ever be inside our
Let's
head.
see where
with
you're
it.
going with this.
And nobody will ever touch our soul. But we can have the closest possible thing to that when we form the intimate connection that comes with listening. Where better to listen than from a collection of talented and intelligent and articulate individuals known as the Maximum Fun Network.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to feel a little bit less like one star in a vast expanse of darkness, donate.
I'm just saying that I get more enjoyment and entertainment out of podcasts than I do out of many services that I pay money
Whoa!
for.
Like what? Erotic massage?
Like, It
not saying
didn't say happy ending, but it was strongly implied in the advertisement.
What's the one where they oil up and then they rub their whole body
I'm not
on
saying
you?
I get more entertainment out of podcasts than I get from erotic massage. That would be madness.
Right. Well, I think we've all established that podcasting is worth more than erotic massage. Question is, how much money are you going to spend for us to give you a happy ending on this podcast?
That would be so weird if that ended with us just narrating a happy ending for the audience. So let's not do that. But what do you get if, say, we mentioned there's a $5 entry barrier?
Right. So $5 a month, you get access to all the exclusive bonus members-only content that Max Fun offers. This is literally hundreds of hours of special shows that the Flophouse has recorded, that other podcasts like Judge John Hodgman and all the other podcasts that you love at Maximum Fun have recorded just for donors. And not only do you get this year's bonus content, but all of the previous year's bonus content. It's tons of fun
It's a ton of
for
great
you. It's a
stuff.
ton of great stuff.
I can specifically say that we did 2 live shows this year already at the Bell House, 2 sellout shows. One of them is going to show up in your regular feed at some point. But if you want to hear what we thought about the Entourage movie, the only way to do that is to donate to Max Fun at the $5 a month or better level, because then you will get the bonus episode where we talk about Entourage.
The only other alternative would be to kidnap us, make us watch it again, and then have us talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. If you're Dan Aykroyd, you probably could send agents to kidnap all of us and bring us to your weird Canadian mansion,
Full of ghosts and skulls.
fly us with a Crystal Head vodka, and make us do it, or make you guys do it again and me for the first time. I hope I get kidnapped with you, by the way.
That'd be
That's one of the many things that I wish. One of the many reasons why I wish I was the producer in charge of MTV's Cribs, because I would totally be going to Dan Aykroyd's crib.
Right.
Today on
I'm
Cribs,
assuming it's
Peter
all like
Weller.
Scarface memorabilia.
It's a lot of motorcycles.
What's it like at Jeffrey Combs' house? We decided to find out.
Yeah, but Dan, you mentioned an important
Today
thing.
on Cribs, Brian Usna.
Dan, you mentioned an important thing, which is these thank you gifts that you get are cumulative. So
That's
if you
true.
give, let's say you give at the $10 per month level, you'll get the chance to choose a bandana, which of each, they're one of 22 bandanas, each one designed specifically for each of the shows at Maximum Fun. They're very sharp indeed, but again, not cutting sharp, just good looking sharp.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then you would
absolutely.
also get all the bonus content. And if you go up again, and now I'm turning a page.
What's the next?
little behind the scenes
What's the
podcasting
what's the
magic.
name of the next level, John?
That's the Max Fun Adventure Necessity Collection. At $20 a month, you're going to get a multi-tool, like a Swiss Army knife,
Okay.
right? With the Max Fun logo, hot chocolate packet, a paracord bracelet, and camping toilet paper. You get toilet paper.
So like camping supplies.
Yeah,
you
if
can
you're
go out and
trapped in
about.
the woods. If you're trapped in the woods. As people get trapped in the woods
Why
often.
people get lost in the woods?
Well, the theme of all of these is adventure.
I got
because
locked
yeah,
into
yeah.
the woods.
Podcasting is the adventure of the mind.
Yeah, it's
So
And
you know,
audiobooks are movies for your mind,
Right.
as we know.
and let's say you have a little bit extra money to spend. Maybe you're one of these characters from maybe one of these heroes from this movie we just saw.
you
This
already
do
bought,
nothing lawyer and this do nothing rip off artist stock tip
you already bought
trader.
your car phone and your GPS and your Beetlejuice patterned couch.
Right, and you still have $35 a month left over that you want to throw over to Maximum Fun. Well, guess what? You get a vacuum thermos with the Maximum Fun logo on it, plus the adventure kit, plus all of the bandana, plus everything else, the bonus content. And if you send in if you email to me at hodgman@maximumfun.org your receipt, I will mispronounce your name on Instagram and Tumblr and Twitter, all my social medias.
Wow. That's not
great.
That's not even an official
No, that's just extra.
that's extra.
That's extra.
Hodgman enthusiasm.
And I don't think you haven't mentioned this part, but when you show up to work with that thermos, everyone else will be super jealous of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
how warm your liquids are.
Yep.
Or cold, or cold.
And it's a status
good
symbol.
point.
Thermoses are, they go both ways. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've ever been saying. They're bifunctional.
They're bithermius.
Yeah, and look, it's just I think it bears repeating again that
Bears.
Not really.
that podcasting may be sort of a newer sort of entertainment stream in your life, but it's one that I think that we all have sort of come to really rely on and really enjoy. And if you feel like it's something of worth to you, why not throw some money at it? Why not show that worth by supporting it, supporting art that you like?
There's been a lot of talk over the past 15 to 20 years about this kind of free economy and how information wants to be free. That's total bullshit. Information wants money. So
information being us, we want money.
Well, like if it's using information broadly as content.
May I dare say though that Maximum Fun does not want money. It requires money to continue to bring these podcasts to you.
Yes.
That there is a substantial amount of overhead that even the occasional sponsorship does not entirely cover. It's not our desire to come to you and ask for money, but I do think that you guys have a real community with your fans. We at the Judge John Hodgman podcast have a community with our fans, and I think there's a lot of overlap. And in general, Maximum Fun feels like a big, large family. There is a sense of communal ownership over these shows, and now is the time when we have to come to you and say, if you like what we do, we hope that you'll support us, because otherwise the lights will go out and the podcast will go dark. And we just ran out of money, guys. Sorry. We have to. Sorry. That's it. Never mind.
Nintendo.
Sorry. It was that one person, Joe, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where your hand was hovering over the donate button and you decided not to do that. We needed you then.
Man,
so
Joe.
sorry. Yeah.
You make a good point.
Which makes a good point, which you should do it right now.
Yes, right immediately, so you don't forget.
Right.
Pause this right now, or just let it keep playing. I don't know. And go to
Open another window.
go to
On your device.
MaximumFun.org/donate.
MaximumFun.org/donate.
And just do it right now before you forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it
And there's
right
not
now.
that they don't need that much information, just your credit card information.
Right.
And the money goes directly to the podcast that you
And
listen
yeah,
to.
you
You
get
get
to
to
pick which-
select.
You select the podcast, call it the Flophouse, and then
Or Judge John
or
Hodgman.
Judge John Hodgman, but the Flophouse, and then the money goes to there with some of the amount of it going to Maximum Fun's general operating costs.
But the vast majority of the
And there's,
donations.
and there's a small 45% processing fee that goes to me.
A small 45%. It's less than a majority.
No, a portion of it goes to the network as a whole, but the larger portion of it goes directly to the podcast that you choose to tick off as your favorite as you make your donation. So
And if you're already a donor, consider the fact that there's a bunch of new shows out there that we've just launched this year that might want your support as well. So
Yeah.
you could increase your donation.
Yeah, you can become a new donor. You can become an upgrading donor if you're a current donor, and
you can upgrade. You can $100 a month, $200 a month will get you automatic registration at Max FunCon.
Yeah, if you're a
at Lake
Brazilian,
Arrowhead. If you're one of those Brazilianaires,
Oh, famous.
you don't have to tell me what that means.
and you've been to you've been to Max FunCon. Yeah.
I have been to Max FunCon.
It's a good time, right?
It's an incredibly good time. Have you guys not been to Max
No,
FunCon?
we've never been.
No, we don't.
I think. Can we say this? I don't know.
I don't know if you can say anything, Dan. Why don't you keep your trap shut?
All right. I'm not saying anything.
We'll talk more about that later.
But look, we come.
Max
to
FunCon
you,
is a great time. That's all.
We come to you once a year, asking this, which is all the more important that you, if you're interested in donating, you do it while you're thinking of it. Do it now.
That's how we were able to lure Judge John Hodgman into our lair of deceit and sexual
Yeah,
seduction.
that one piece of Popeye's chicken didn't cost nothing.
Certainly didn't.
Yeah, I just realized
The best in the business
I'm not
doesn't
getting
go cheap.
my money's worth here.
But the point is, go to MaximumFun.org/donate. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. Again, the money goes to the entertainment that you like and you choose.
And keeps
So-
it going.
And keeps it
So
going.
that it will continue.
Yeah, and you will feel good
And you'll
instead of like a terrible creep who steals.
what you are now. Well, it'll give you that sense of superiority next year when the pledge drive comes along and you're like, I already support.
Yeah.
The same way that whenever I see someone from a charity I already donate to on the sidewalk and they go, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a moment to talk about this?" I go, "I don't have to," and I keep walking. I already donate to
and
your
then
charity.
then you fall onto a conveyor belt and ride right through Mr. Bone Stripper.
Mr. Bone Stripper.
Mr. Bone Stripper is my
I
father.
like to believe that
is
for
a joke we made earlier.
for the foreign release of this movie, they changed the image to say like Senor Bone Stripper or like Monsieur
Monsieur Bone Stripper.
Bone Stripper San.
Yeah, for the collectible cards.
Hair bone stripper. MaximumFun.org/donate.
MaximumFun.
Donate, please.
.org/donate.
Okay, what's the next part of this podcast?
The next part of the podcast is where we take a few moments to answer letters from listeners.
Oh, man.
You need
Yeah, I'm going to get a little refresher.
All right. Mr. John Hodgman is going to go get another.
I just realized I got to get more than my piece of chicken out.
And that reminds me, while he's getting up, that we might want to take a few moments right now. Take a few moments, the 3 or 4 of us, to listen to the letters. To think about them and really give a good reply. Maybe something that might change some lives. Maybe something that'll get us high fives when we meet the writer of the letter in person. In person. Are you saying there's a chance that I could meet the flop house? Probably not. Well, Stuart, yes, because he works in a public place. Dan's got a lot of time on his hands, and he'll probably be there too. But Elliot's kind of a mysterious sort. A recluse, they say. Back in his lair, unable to leave. He hates the sunlight, hates the light of the moon, light of any kind, natural air, the laughter, the smiles. It strikes him like spikes and like poison. Don't expect to meet him, but Stuart and Dan, sure, why not? And you'll tell him, thanks for reading my letter on the Flophouse tonight. This letter song was brought to you by Me Wasting Time.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
So.
Oh, Dan's already.
Should I sing some more? Were you not prepared?
No, I just got a message.
Dan getting over the orgasm from my song.
I just got a message that people are literally scared that this is the last Flophouse because of that offhand remark you said one time that when we did Nothing But Trouble will be the last Flophouse.
No, that was just a joke because I hate the movie. This is not the last Flophouse. If anything, it's the beginning of a new era in which we won't do the show anymore. Just kidding. We'll keep doing it. MaximumFun.org/donate.
Yeah, we're friends IRL, right?
We are friends.
IRL.
So, Dan, do we have some letters, or should I sing another song for real?
No, I've got it. So this first letter is a very well-timed letter. Let's say that.
Dear Floppers, Nothing But Trouble. Are you going to watch it? Yes. Thanks
It's
for the
from
letter.
Chris, last name withheld, who writes.
Okay, I'm back. Hang on, before you read the letter, I just wanted to say, What Did I Miss is the name of a song from the popular musical Hamilton, but it also describes the question I have, because I was in the kitchen when something happened. Did someone sing a song? I hope I didn't miss a song.
Run song to song. It counts.
The abrupt ending.
Did somebody say that they missed the song? It seems I've
Candyman'd
been
him.
awakened from my ancient slumber to sing another number about letters and writing and letters from us to you, from you to us, from them to them, from all to all.
But, Elliot, do I actually have to write a letter to a stranger? I don't want to do it. I have problems with expressing myself.
That's understandable and something we might need to work on. You're a great guy. You should be confident in your abilities. But no, because the strangers have written to us. They're strangers, but there's no dangers, because it's through a letter, unless they figured out some way to kill with words. Probably not. And so let's read this letter from Chris, last name withheld. Dan said it was timely, but why? But how? We'll get the answers to those questions when the song comes to its end. Right now.
Good tease, Elliot.
So it goes like this. Now that the great movie argument of our time, Ding Dong Gate, has been settled, I turn your attention to the second greatest scene in the history of cinema. I speak, of course, of the scene in Ghostbusters where that ghost gives Dan Aykroyd a blowjob in his dream.
Never heard of it.
Dan Ackroyd?
Is he related to Peter Ackroyd?
While most people's attention is focused on the weird cross-eyed face that Ray makes in the throes of sexual satisfaction,
Yep.
what happens next is where the questions arise. Namely, he falls out of bed. It should be taken as read that Ray has an erection in his dream. However, one can then safely assume that there's a good chance that Ray in real life has an erection as well. Thus,
Okay.
Yep. Rex Danger, erection detective, is on the case.
thus the question
Rex Danger.
Rex Danger.
the question
The E is short for erection.
Yeah, my first name is Erection.
That's when he walked into my office. He had a single gam that went all the way up. I mean his penis. He laid it on the desk, and I took a look at the case. It's a nice penis you got there. That's true, Mr. Danger. Too
That
nice.
dude had-
Someone's trying to steal it.
That dude had third leg that went for miles.
the question that arises is simple.
The case of the purloined penis.
Did Ray fall on his erect penis when he fell out of bed? Did he then break his penis? Are we to assume that for the rest of the movie, Ray is trying to fight ghosts and save New York while also dealing with a broken penis? Is there anything in Dan Aykroyd's performance that indicates that he is trying to subtly indicate that, yes, Raymond Stantz had a broken penis? Thanks for your insight. If anyone can settle this matter, it's you, Chris, last name withheld.
As someone who has fallen out of bed with an erection many a time, but you can't break your penis that way.
No, what probably happened is that it got stuck in the ground with like a boing noise, and he like quivered back and
Yep.
forth a little bit. Yeah,
He probably had it removed and put on his nose.
as evidence, by the film.
Yeah, I imagine there was probably a discarded subplot where Ray broke his penis in half, and he had to go on a quest to find a suitable second half of his penis.
Well, the ghost of his now broken penis became like a little character that was his mascot.
Uh huh.
And I think over time,
It's one of the many sausages that Slimer accidentally eats.
If that scene,
accidentally,
not
like
accidentally,
Slimer was yawning, and his hand, I guess, was on of its own accord, just threw sausages in.
if that scene were just removed from the movie forever,
Yes.
It would be a better
would there be an
movie.
uproar? I mean, I guess there would be because there's so many weird creep dudes who hate the
Yep.
new Ghostbusters because they're ladies. So it's like, how dare you take out my
Talking about
blowjob
our
scene?
listener base, sir.
But this is. But
Well,
this would be more like
I love you guys too, but come on.
This would be more like a special edition, like when they replaced in E.T. where they took the guns out and put walkie-talkies in.
So you're saying they have a walkie-talkie in place of his penis?
Yeah, that's right.
So the ghost is just calling somebody?
Yeah, he's getting a blowjob
He's
from
saying,
a
who you
Ronto
gonna call?
or
You.
a do
Yeah,
back.
they put a more animated do-back in place of his penis. There's a bunch of little robots flying around for no reason.
I actually had to
Ray, my boogie.
I had to think for a second about what a Ronto was, and it just really made me so happy that I had forgotten.
That's a
Like
valuable thing
I
to do.
finally have escaped the gravitational pull of that movie, and I don't need to know about it anymore. No, it's good. You helped me. I've clearly moved on in my life. Thank you, Stuart. That's his name, right, Stuart?
Yes,
Yeah, all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
close enough.
Non-creative.
Next letter, Dan.
Sure.
We got to move along. Someone was spending a lot of time earlier.
This is from
Me.
Time to move along. You've got to read all those letters. They are only getting better. This is the second one
Now we're
now.
gonna have to pay money to Paul Williams for that tune. This is from Steve, last name withheld, who writes, "I'm at work right
Steve
now."
Harvey.
It says, "Dear Floppers, do you watch Family Feud? Please do. I host it." Sorry about that Miss Universe
What do
thing.
you think of my
Love, Steve.
suits?
What do you think of my
They're
suits?
great, Steve.
Bright enough? Enough buttons? Let me know.
I'm at work right now watching Sphere. That's not my job, fortunately. Spoiler alert, but I think Queen Latifah is getting murdered by a jellyfish. It's not good.
I forgot she was in that movie.
Anyway, I've been listening to some old
remember Sharon Stone was in
episodes and hearing the old Squarespace plugs. I've noticed at least 3 episodes where you've mentioned the Getty Images plugin, at which time Elliot makes a joke about images of Estelle Getty. This leads me to believe that Elliot is not funny, or at least needs inspiration.
Whoa.
Here are other hilarious Gettys.
Yeah,
he
because you
can-
know what doesn't make things funny? doing them more than once. That's never been a funny thing.
Here are other hilarious Gettys he can crack.
He's gonna punch up your Getty jokes.
This is unacceptable.
No, I'll allow it. I'd like to hear what he has to
The
say.
judge is
Oil industrious J. Paul Getty.
No.
Also lends itself to other humorous references, including the Getty Conservation Institute and Getty Foundation.
Wait. Humorous references?
Ringside frontman and Young Gun star.
Balthazar Getty.
Balthazar Getty.
That's acceptable. Yeah, because
Ru-
Balthazar is a funny name.
That's true.
He's related to J. Paul Getty.
I thought he was a star of Lost Highway. That's a bigger
Rush
bigger
frontman Getty Lee. Canadian politician Don Getty.
But he spells Getty Lee correctly. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Gettysburg, either the battle or address.
No, on the nose.
Too much respect for the men who gave their lives for the North.
Right.
Getty,
Not for the South.
And it's on the penis nose, too.
Getty.js, the hilarious full stack open source MVC framework.
Don't know what any of those words were.
That's a great joke.
I look
I
forward
love
to
that
the
one.
new and riotous Getty references in future podcasts. Best Steve, last name withheld. P.S. Queen Latifah died. I just enjoyed a close-up shot of Dustin Hoffman pulling slimy tentacles out of her nostril. This movie blows. So I guess that's
What's his first name?
That's Steve.
And his last name?
We don't have it here.
withheld.
Getty, right? Steve Getty, thanks for your submission of your packet.
We'll keep you on file.
We'll keep you on file. We'll keep you on. It's like a disease.
Yeah, it's hard to turn it off
Yeah.
because it's so much fun to make up songs.
But
And right
Are you
wrongs.
trying to set us up for a song?
I don't know. It could be.
I appreciate the burn on Elliot, but we've got time for just one more letter.
Is it if it's the last time we had time for just one more letter? It involved Krang having boobs.
There's nothing.
Or it was like, Dan's the best flopper. I love him the most.
Signed
Love
Man
Stan.
Decoy. Signed not a different Dan.
There's neither anything about me nor anything overtly sexual about this last letter.
Okay.
So this letter goes like this.
Sexual.
I know. I was
Sex 12.
I was hoping.
Hoping. We're hoping you weren't noticing.
I was hoping and you would
Be having some sexual feelings.
when you got that feeling in sexual healing.
Need some sexual healing.
So this letter goes like this. Since you talked about Bazooka Joe strips in your Aloha episode, I'm taking this as a signal that you've finally decided to switch from being a bad movie podcast to instead revolving around comic strips. Isn't it weird that in the 30s a bunch of strips were released that are still around today but have nothing to do with their original focus?
That is weird. That's true.
Thimble Theater became all about the irascible sailor Popeye rather than focusing on Castor Oil, the terrible brother of Olive.
Or thimbles.
Fritzy Ritz would change for the better once Fritzy accepted her lovable niece Nancy. And obviously things shifted for the worst once Blondie finally settled down with from her wild flapper days and married Dagwood.
Also, how Snuffy Smith just took over Barney Google.
Yeah, it's true.
I was hoping
with his googly
hoping
eyes.
one of us would
Would mention
bring that up, and I am not surprised it was you.
What twists would you like to see in other comic strips? Would Dennis the Menace finally kill Mr. Wilson and realize the futility of his menacing ways? Would Dilbert finally
And
get
then what
fouled?
it becomes an Oz type prison strip.
Would Dilbert finally get fired for sexually harassing Alice? Making jokes around bad movies is great and all, but I think this new comic strip focus will make the podcast more successful than ever. Flip-takingly yours, the kid from Foxtrot.
Well,
Which kid? There's 3 kids in Foxtrot. There's the 2 boys and the girl.
yeah, but I think
The younger one
yeah,
with
it's
the
the
blonde.
Jason
nerdy one.
Fox, the
Okay.
star of the Bill Ammond.
So,
Cartoon.
wait, there was a question.
Comic
Was there a
strip
question?
Foxtrot.
Were we given a question there?
It was basically saying, what are you guys wasting time making fun of movies for when there is this antique art form that no one cares about?
And they're like
Yeah.
twists in. So,
Or I should
what
say
I-
this other antique art form that no one cares about.
yeah.
Yeah, if it's not YouTube, nobody cares about
So
it.
there was the great twist that I wish had been kept with was that 1 week of Garfield strips where he wakes up and the house is empty and there's cobwebs everywhere, and the implication I guess is that the rest of the strips were all a dream during his last moments before he died. Because at the end he's wandering around and John is gone and Odie is gone, like nobody's lived in this house for years, and he's like. There are captions that are like, think back to the better times, back, and the last
This is a thing that happened?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a 5-day storyline, and the last panel, the last day, is he's back with John and Odie, and I think the intention was that those weeks were a dream, But what it comes off implying that the rest of the strip is him.
The whole strip was a dream.
Yeah,
Right.
and he's like, I can't. I'm going insane from my solitude. Like I have to think about this before I.
What kind of
start.
mushrooms did you put in that lasagna?
I thought you were describing Garfield in a post-apocalyptic environment, and that is something I would like. Garfield Fury Road is something I would be very interested in reading about.
That'd be pretty fun.
There's no post-apocalyptic comic strip.
I'm kind of surprised there isn't because it's such a go-to thing right
Right,
now.
but the only people who read comic strips now are elderly people who are thinking about death all the time anyway. They don't.
Oh, everybody's
It's not
dying
fun.
out.
It's not fun for them to
The,
to engage in a premise where all life is ended. It's more fun for them to engage in a premise where Drabble says something.
Where Shoe is hanging out at the tree bar.
the twist I was always hoping for would be that that Slylock Fox would finally realize that Jack the Ripper is all part of one giant Masonic conspiracy.
And then it's his buddy Max Mouse that's been behind it the whole time.
Max Mouse MD has been doing it.
You know, I'm sure that the person who's writing in is familiar with this website, and maybe you guys are too. JoshReads.com.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
By Josh Frolinger, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
seems about right.
Frolinger, Frolinger. But he tears apart comic strips in a delightful manner,
In a very funny way.
daily. And so I feel like that's covered. I don't want to tell you.
that's the
I don't want to tell you guys
right?
how to not improve your podcast, but I think that you guys got movies covered. I don't think you need to worry about comic strips.
I mean, we talk about him every now and then.
Right.
And we've mentioned how Funky Winker Bean is depressing and makes no sense.
Right, right.
And when we eventually watch the Rose is Rose movie, we'll talk about the comic strip.
Where's that property going to go?
We're finally going to get the movie it deserves.
Would you work as a writer on a Funky Winker Bean movie?
I don't see why I wouldn't.
How funky is the
Well,
money?
is it as funky as Winker Bean?
Winker
That's not
Bean
very
money.
much.
Who are you going to get to play the band teacher? Because he's like the most important character, right?
Well, I thought
I feel like
it
it's
eventually
it's
became-
less-
Christopher
Les became
Mintz-Plasse
like
seems
the
like the
star.
obvious less character, right?
Yeah.
How
that's
much
right.
do you even know about Funky Winker Bean, Stuart?
I don't know that much.
Yeah.
I just remember,
I mean,
I've
Funky
told
is
the story
barely
many
a character
times,
in
but
it.
there was one where there was like somebody committed suicide.
Every couple of weeks somebody dies or has cancer or something terrible.
It's a profoundly depressing
I
comic
remember
strip.
as a kid, I rarely read the daily strips, but I always read the Sunday comics. And every Funky Winker Bean or every other Funky Winker Bean was just one panel of somebody like sitting next to a hospital bed where their wife was, or like looking at the picture of someone who had died recently. And I was like, "What is going on in this comic strip?" It's just a series of tableau of sadness.
It's the same guy.
It's not
Tom
like
Baddock.
Baddock, who also had that comic about the TV anchor who got murdered, right?
Oh,
John
yeah.
Darling.
Yeah.
But that was like a fun thing.
That he got murdered?
But it was supposed to be like a murder mystery type thing, right?
I feel like that was like wasn't that like the end of the comic? Was
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Dan is correct. This
That seems like
time.
a very strange.
I mean, he may have had.
He was like a
moment-
John Donahue, like a Phil Donahue figure who, he hosted a talk show and it was sort of a media send up. And
Yeah.
then they were getting canceled. And he's like, fuck it, I'm going to murder him.
And then much later in Funky Winker Bean, like they solved the mystery.
They solved the murder. Yeah, right.
for all those people who were wondering
Wait,
about it.
really?
Yeah. It's
They
crazy.
solved the murder in a different comic strip.
Yeah. It's
Ugh.
crazy.
kind of-
It's crazy.
It's kind of brilliant in a
Did they
weird
find
way.
out why Croc was such a dick to everybody?
I want to know what's up with Tank.
Solve the mystery of why
which
Beetle
was
Bailey
Tank?
is so
Tank
lazy.
is the one where he's like a high school
why.
football coach or something.
I don't remember that one at all.
There's the one.
What's the one you missed the most?
I mean, that isn't made anymore, or because I don't read comic strips regularly the same way. Like
Right.
one that's still going on, or no?
No, one that isn't going, I guess.
I mean, like Calvin and Hobbes. I guess.
Calvin,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
the-
I mean, that's one of the few strips where like I can't think of any periods in it where it like lost it.
No,
you know.
it was classic from the first frame to the last
Yeah,
frame.
and it's like beautiful to look at. But I wonder if the funky
Would you write a Calvin and Hobbes movie if Bill Waterston was not on board?
Oof.
I don't think I would, unless it was a lot of money. I mean, like
How much money are we talking?
Yeah, how much money?
Like tens of millions of dollars, like more than they would ever pay
was gonna
anyone
say,
to write a movie. You know?
$1 million?
I don't know.
That would
That'd be
keep
hard.
Sammy in a lot of steaks.
It's true. I mean, he can't
Yeah.
really eat
Sammy
steak
loves
right now.
steaks.
He doesn't really.
Send me
it's
an
hard
email.
for a 2-year-old to
Send
chew
me an
beef.
email saying he loves steaks.
You stockpile steaks now. You freeze them for
Please,
later.
Stuart, steaks.
Yeah, and just and later on you'll be like, these are the steaks that my integrity bought for you.
It's the same. It's this. I would say the same thing to him that John Oliver said to us when I joined him and some other people once at a sushi place.
Listen to
and he
this
said,
name dropping.
He said, he said, I'll take the
Yeah,
check.
exactly.
And we went, no. And he goes, no, I'll take the bill. I'll pay for it. I got my Love Guru check today. And then we go, okay. And he goes, as he's going to the register, he goes, by the way, this makes you all complicit in the production of the Love Guru. And we were like, no. So I tell Sam, I'll be like, you can enjoy those steaks, but you made Bill Watterson very unhappy.
That was Hollywood Kalen with another Star Tale.
Star drop.
Behind the scenes.
But I wonder if the guy from Funky Winker Bean went through something like Johnny Hart did, but in reverse. Like Johnny Hart found God and stopped drinking, and so BC became a very proselytizing strip. And Wizard of It, I guess he decided was fine as was, and he didn't have to change it.
Right.
Where the
Well, it was
Funky-
the Crusades, so it fit in with what he was doing.
whereas Funky Winker Bean was the guy.
And,
who was like,
and honestly,
Wizard of It didn't show both sides.
BC was always sort of in the evangelical mode because it was like humans living with dinosaurs. It was a creationist comic strip from the beginning.
it's true, I guess. But the
Are there dinosaurs in BC?
yeah.
Yeah, all right, good.
And they make jokes about how that one cave woman is too fat and things like that. It's like, you're a dinosaur. Why would you make that joke? I don't understand.
Do you know what the name of that character is?
No, I don't.
The cave woman is too fat? Fat broad.
Really?
Yes.
You're saying it was never really a progressive strip.
No.
But I wonder if the Funky Winker Bean guy had a moment that was the reverse of that, where he lost faith in God and he was like, "Forget it. All my characters are gonna die. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna make it happen."
Yeah.
And the band teacher, he gets the worst punishment. He survives, and he just lives on with the memories of those he's lost.
He remembers when they were all children.
Yeah, and his band, it is never very good.
Wow.
That's the icing on the cake.
Well, I guess. What was his name? Who
Les.
wrote that letter? Les.
Oh wait, no.
Les
that's
is the
band
nerd dude,
That's
right?
the band teacher. I don't know.
Who wrote the letter?
Oh,
Who wrote the letter?
The kid from Foxtrot is all he
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Jason from Foxtrot. I guess you got your wish.
Okay,
You turned it into a comic strip podcast.
So what's the next part of this podcast?
the
Dan?
next and
part,
final part of the podcast is where we
Bandana?
recommend movies that we have seen, usually recently, but not necessarily, that we would recommend instead of the movie that we watched tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
So who goes first?
I'll go briefly. I rewatched a movie that I saw for the first time when I was 13 and hadn't seen since I watched The Sting, which is a movie that I feel like almost immediately did not get a lot of credit from cinephiles
I
because
mean, it won Best Picture.
yeah, but it was
So I guess it's an underrated,
I said
underdog.
cinephiles. It was like it came out in the 70s and it was already a movie out of time because it was a very old fashioned movie even when it was made. It was a throwback. It was an old Hollywood movie, but it was also like set in an older time period.
But shot as though it were the 70s. In a weird way.
it's got that
Like,
George Roy Hill. Yeah,
that George
flavor.
Roy Hill, yeah.
but
We all know it.
that George Roy Hill, yeah.
Coming at you now, it's that George Roy Hill, yeah, top of the charts. You're listening to W, huh?
But
100.1 on your radio dial.
it's a movie that really I feel like it's a very seminal it's definitely a very seminal con man film. It kicks off that sort of
We're talking about The Sting.
The Sting.
Right. This is
Yeah.
your recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I'm recommending The Sting too.
No, the thing is, like, you watch The Sting today and it has one twist and it's not a surprising twist at all. If you've seen any con man film
Is there a scorpion
at all,
in it?
you're like,
I don't even know what twist you're thinking of.
Scorpion Twist. didn't you see that movie, Scorpion Twist?
I'm not
Is that hot new dance craze?
Now, the way that you do the dance is you put a live scorpion in your shoe.
the name of the dance is the Scorpion Twist.
You're twisting from the pain as it stings you with its venom.
Nothing better than a dance where they tell you the middle of the song.
No, it's just the movie is all building up to one twist that is not surprising in the least if you've seen any sort of movie that has a twist at all. But that's because
Like Sixth Sense.
Right. It turns out they're all ghosts.
it's because
The movie was set in the past. They're all dead.
The Sting is such an early example of the form.
They're all what is it, set in the 30s?
It's the 20s, right? Or is it
20s
the
or the 30s?
Whenever
They're all living in a colony where
It's
they're acting
Depression
like it's the
era.
20s or the 30s, but in fact, when they walk outside the studio, it's the 1970s.
That's right.
The twist is they were making a movie called The Sting the whole time.
Hold on to your hats.
Yeah. Guess what? This is not a real sting. It's a movie.
Turns out Robert Shaw was in on it the whole time.
Life's
He read
like
the
a movie.
screenplay.
Write your own ending. Keep believing. Keep pretending.
We just made the Sting. Thanks to the Stingers.
The Sting.
The stingies. And you.
That's how you do the scorpion twist.
No, but what I'll say about the movie is it's just if you want it's what it is a testament to just old Hollywood charm. Like if you want to see a movie where you're just like, oh, this is carried along 100% on the charm of Robert Redford and Paul Newman and the fact that you've got Robert Shaw as the bad guy and you've got character actors like Charles Durning and Ray Walston, like that's the beauty of it. Just a movie that
That's
has...
how it works.
That is how it works. Like it's
That's
classic
how it works.
Hollywood big stars with
Yeah.
great character actors.
There are a lot of things that Chevy Chase was supposed to be able to do and didn't. And yet, even in this movie, I felt like at the beginning, I'm like, this guy's got some classic Hollywood charm.
Yeah.
And if he were not thrown into this terrible plot, something could have happened. Now, of course,
True.
it's all lost.
And if he was not famously kind of unpleasant,
I think
he
at the
could
time,
have
but at the,
applied that in other...
at the time, he was not known to the public. I think.
Yeah.
How unpleasant he is. I think that was just among entertainers.
Well, I have not seen The Sting for many, many years, and I will take your recommendation.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, so
I
this
hope
is-
that you do. I hope you have a recommendation because that's the way that this part of the
Yeah, so this is the part of the
I brought
podcast
one.
where I recommend a horror movie. I'm going to recommend 1989's Witch Trap. That
Witch
is
Trap?
Witch Trap. Not the sequel to Witchboard, which actually they put on the VHS cover, and I think in the opening credits, even though it's directed by the guy who directed Witchboard and directed Stuart Wellington's favorite, Night of the Demons. Now,
you've
Witch
talked about it
Trap
many times.
is features a number of the same actors from Night of the Demons, including Linnea Quigley, who is also, yes, totally naked in this movie. And it is kind of the definition of like a good, bad movie. Like you want to watch this, it's like a classic 80s, early 90s horror movie that you want to watch with friends. People get killed. There's the hero is this like wisecracking detective who has a terrible one-liner for every scene, and people get killed in the stupidest ways possible. And it's shot very cheaply and weirdly. It's a super great movie to watch with friends. Witch Trap.
And are witches trapped in it?
Kinda. I don't want to get too into the plot.
Why not?
But it's kind of a witch. The movie is about a couple of ghost hunters who get hired
Yes.
so there's some ghost hunters who get hired to clean out a house that is haunted by an old warlock. Now, the guy who owns the property needs to make some money off of it because he is, I guess, in debt, and his only option is to turn this haunted house into a haunted bed and breakfast because haunted houses are big business back in 1989.
As I think they probably are now.
Yeah, as they are now. So but the problem is that he hired a stage magician to kind of like make sure the house is cool, even though a little bit haunted. Basically, add a little bit of bona fides to it.
Bona fides.
Unfortunately,
Like a skeleton.
that guy totally gets killed by the ghost. So he has to hire these ghost hunters to go in, but he doesn't trust them to go in alone. So he has to hire in a private security company who are the best in the biz.
He's sinking so much money into this.
Who come along with it because it's a couple $1 million he's losing, Elliot. Think about it. If you owned a private haunted bed and breakfast,
I'd spend any amount of money to get that.
No amount of money is
cash
too much.
cow back on the market.
Yep.
You were right. You shouldn't have described the plot.
It all revolves around somebody eating.
It's a classic bed and breakfast sting. It's like the sting in a haunted B&B in 1989.
Now
So it's
Robert
like the-
Shaw shows up.
It's like the Innkeepers, is what you're saying.
It's not as good as the Innkeepers.
Oh, the Innkeepers is really good.
But no, this is a good once again, if you've already seen Night of the Demons with your pals, just pop in Witch Trap.
All right.
I haven't seen either of those films, and I
Double
will
feature.
see them both.
I'll go recommend a movie now.
No, you probably have something prepared, so I'll just say my thing
Oh, okay.
because I got nothing. I have a movie that I'm going to recommend. I couldn't remember any of the movies that I've seen in the past year, so I had to go back into my email to see what movies I bought on iTunes. And suddenly I remembered, oh, right, there was that night where I watched 2 movies. And the first movie I watched was the good one. And then the second movie I watched was the terrible one. And I'm only going to mention the terrible one because I'm sure you've done it on the podcast, and I apologize if I've not heard it.
Never know.
But 1941.
Oh, no, we haven't done this one.
no.
Yeah.
Can I come back for that one?
Sure,
Because
yeah, if we do it.
this
Yeah.
another John Candy, Dan Aykroyd film,
Yeah.
and another completely misguided emanation of a single creative vision that no one could say no to at that time, and it's unbelievably terrible.
Did Spielberg direct that?
It was
Yeah, yeah.
Spielberg. Spielberg directed it,
Spielberg was like the golden boy.
and Zemeckis wrote it. And like Aykroyd, I think knows how to make comedy, but doesn't know how to.
Evidenced by this movie.
But doesn't. But I think he understands comedy to some degree, but doesn't know how
Yeah.
to direct a movie. Spielberg knew how to direct a movie, but doesn't know anything about
And
comedy.
that's one where I've read about behind the scenes. People were like, yeah, on the set, it wasn't funny, but everyone assumed like Belushi's going to pull it off. Like,
Right.
The script doesn't seem to be very funny. When we're shooting it, it doesn't seem to be funny, but Belushi's magic. So when it's on screen, he's just going to pull it off.
and that is completely like the whole ethos of the movie is these people were funny in Animal House. They'll do it again. We don't have to give them anything. We don't have to make any. We don't have to set up anything. They'll just mug and then look at boobs and that's what the movie is. And it was startling how terrible. And I'd seen it as a kid. My dad took me to see it, and I can't imagine.
Time
what
for you to
was
learn
going through
about
his
the war,
mind.
son.
Yeah,
But when you
exactly.
were a kid, because I remember seeing as a kid, and just like this movie, like I just assumed it was good. I remember being entertained as a child, probably because of boobs and I don't know. John
Yeah,
Belushi.
I remember being very confused by it because I was a very shy kid, and I'm like, "Why is my dad taking me to a boob movie?" And it opens with a parody of the opening scene of Jaws,
Yeah.
which was the only good thing about it until you realize just how it's a profoundly misogynistic movie. But that's a terrible movie. We'll leave that for another time.
Okay.
The movie that I saw earlier that same night, in a similar jag of like, was this good or was this bad, was Broadcast News.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is
That's a good movie.
Great.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
And I had forgotten, like, it's one of the, I'd always taken it as one of my favorite movies, but it had been years since I had seen it. And it was one of these movies where I had not appreciated just how deep into my DNA it had gotten.
Mm-hmm.
It's Albert Brooks is so funny in it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The three of them, William Hurt and
Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter, right, are so incredible. And there's so many moments that I remember that not only that I remember perfectly, but that affect how I think about comedic and dramatic writing now. And it's still incredibly pertinent. So I recommend that movie highly.
so you
it's
heard
no-
it, 1941.
No.
John Otten,
Also, check
put it
out
on the DVD.
Scorpion Twist, a very underseen exploitation spy
Dance
movie
film.
from 1981. Spy dance movie starring Digital Underground, 1989. It was incredible. Shock G plays all of the characters.
So I'm going to recommend a movie that, in keeping with my usual trend, is an old movie and a foreign movie, which is a movie called The Housemaid. which is from South Korea in 1960. It was directed by Kim Ki-young.
Well, I've got to go, you guys. So.
And it's this movie that in the West was not well known until probably about 5 or 6 years ago, when they remade it in Korea, and suddenly people in the United States, found out about the original. And it's like if Alfred Hitchcock made a thriller where he went farther than Alfred Hitchcock does in terms of like just shocking subject matter, where this family is, the mother is a seamstress and the dad is a music teacher at a dormitory for women who work at a factory in South Korea. And they take on, one of the students has a crush on him, and he spurns her, and something terrible happens to her, and her friend, almost as revenge, recommends a woman to be their housemaid because they're looking for a housemaid. And this woman, just through her sheer force of will and just being crazy, turns the house upside down and makes everybody her servants. And to the point that it's like if Alfred Hitchcock made a movie where he's always threatening that a child's going to die. I guess in one movie, in Sabotage, a child dies. But like if Alfred Hitchcock made a movie where he's like, that annoying kid that you kind of don't want anything bad to happen to because he's a kid, well, he's going to fall down some stairs and die. And like it's just so intense. Spoiler. But sorry, that is a spoiler. But like it's weirdly intense, but they're without a lot of scenes where people are in physical danger. But it feels so creepy and so oppressive and claustrophobic. And there's an ending to it that should ruin it. It should be a bad ending, but it actually works in a crazy way. And I don't want to tell you what it is, but like it's just this very like intense psychodrama of this woman coming in and destroying these people's lives essentially. And it's really creepy and good.
Say the name of it again.
It's called The Housemaid.
No, I can't remember that. What's its name in Korean?
That is a good question. I do not know how to pronounce.
Your pronunciation is fantastic.
I guess according to Wikipedia, I guess it would be something like Hanyo.
Oh, Housemaid.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've heard about that movie.
But it's one that if you like, there's a certain kind of cinephile that is especially likes Asian movies. Like this is one to see if you haven't seen it.
And where would that be available? Because the movies we're talking about, you can get.
I think Criterion Collection has it actually. So it may be available in their Hulu collection.
That's pretty good. The movie I talked about, you can only watch on YouTube or VHS.
Haunt your video stores for a copy of Witch Trap.
Just go to YouTube.
We live in a weird world now where obscure foreign movies are easier to find than like
old dumb American films.
Yeah, like cheapy American horror movies that used to flood the video market.
Right.
Like it used to be so easy to find a copy of Ghoulies and so hard to see like any of Orson Welles' later movies, and now those are all available online.
Right.
Ghoulies, I don't know where you find it.
And don't even talk to me about Ghoulies 2 because I have been.
Is that the one where they go to college?
Ghoulies 3 is Ghoulies Go to College.
Okay.
I can speak with authority about that.
This is Dan's time to shine.
There's a great scene where the Ghoulies put a plunger on a lady who's taking a shower and stretch out her face in a Looney Tunes cartoon way.
Like a Beetlejuice thing.
Yeah. So look for that. I guess. Wait, hold on. Can I switch my recommendation to Ghoulies Go to College?
Is it
From the Sting?
Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Go to College?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Now, did the Ghoulies, we might have talked about this, did they apply or how did they get to college? Did they get a scary scholarship?
Yeah,
They're just invoked. They're invoked by...
Affirmative action.
They're invoked by, what's-his-face from...
Alex Trebek, yeah.
No, from...
Pavarotti.
Basketball. It was a basketball scholarship.
Was it? Yeah.
Body Snatchers. Who's the guy?
Leonard Nimoy. Donald Sutherland.
The lead.
In which Body Snatchers?
The
The original.
Oh, Kevin McCarthy?
Yeah, Kevin McCarthy is the guy who reads the incantation.
The incantation.
Pulls the ghoulies out of their ghoulie
I didn't
universe.
realize that.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain how they get to college. Is he the dean?
He's a teacher there.
He's
at
a
the
professor of
Ghoulies
ghoulie
Use.
studies.
Okay.
He
And I
reads-
guess they're on the fucking syllabus.
Yeah, one of the core classes is Ghoulology.
Does this podcast ever end?
Not
No,
really.
no, it ends now. With an exhortation to go to MaximumFun.org/donate.
If you're still alive or awake and you're listening to this,
That's right.
That's the only way to make this stop.
MaximumFun.org/.
We only need 200 of you to navigate to MaximumFun.org/donate, and we'll be able to do this podcast for another
couple hours.
5 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's shut this down. Thank you so much.
Shut it down for
John
good?
Hodgman, for coming.
Oh, it was totally my pleasure, and I am astonished you guys have not done 1941, and I insist against your wishes to come back and be here when you watch it.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Fire up the movie machine.
Okay. Here we go
Oh,
again.
nothing but trouble stuck in the player. I guess we watch that first.
All right, I'll go for it.
Thank you for listening. For the podcast, I've been Dan McCoy.
I've been Stuart Wellington.
Elliot Kalin is also a robot for some reason.
John Hodgman.
Good night, everyone. All around the world, the same song.
The same old song. Did you timestamp all your goofs? Because if not, we gotta watch it again.
I didn't timestamp my goofs, and I remember now in that email you said, remember, timestamp your goofs. You don't mind if I try out my new character?
I mean, you kind of got a recognizable voice that we're hoping to capture. But,
Everyone.
Oh, that's
I don't know,
all
Elliot.
now.
You
I have a
didn't.
vision for how my career is going to go.
I want to get on the ground floor of this cool new character.
You didn't have John
He's
Hodgman on
going to
your
be
show.
the
You had
biggest
Mickey
character
Mouse.
since Bobo and Little Devil. MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture. Artist owned.
Listener supported.